It's great to have you back.
Yeah, let's monetize our friendship.
Yeah, that's right. You arrived today. I'm like, please don't talk to me. Don't talk to me until we click record. No, it's good to see you again.
Dude, so good to see you.
A lot has changed since you were last here.
Yeah, a lot has changed.
Thursday became your godfather somehow.
Thursday became my godfather
Super
somehow.
pissed you didn't ask me. I'm just joking.
Yeah, you were across the world.
No, I'm joking.
So
But I would have come, I think. I would have come.
I think you would have. It would have been a great time.
So for those who are kind of just new to this, you just became Catholic.
I just became Catholic, yeah. Yeah, I feel like people were waiting in the wings to see if it would really happen. There were a lot of people who were like, come on, this is like some kind of elaborate prank, right? Like truly, genuinely thought it was a prank.
From the last interview we did?
From the last interview, yes.
Yeah.
Like secular people or people who are fans of me were like, okay, well, this is like an art piece. And then when I posted that I'd become baptized, they messaged me like, oh my, I couldn't believe it. And I was like, what do you mean you couldn't believe it? I cried. You know what I mean? You think I would choose to do that in public? It's humiliating.
Yeah, what was the reaction? Because that was really your coming out when you were on my show.
Yeah, that was the big coming out because I had been, pursuing Catholicism for a year. Mm-hmm. Of course, the intensity was ramping up as I got closer and closer to baptism, and I became more like strong in my faith and stuff. But that was the public, like, if you're not close to me, you're not paying really close attention, like, whoa. And it was horrific and also wildly positive at the same time.
For both of those things?
So I posted not even a clip or anything, just a screenshot of Shayne Smith becomes Catholic, and it's you and I at the table, and I lost about 10,000 followers.
Are you kidding?
In less than 24 hours.
You were watching the numbers decrease.
Yeah, and then I got no, I'm not joking, easily 1,000 messages, emails across all platforms of people saying everything from death threats all the way to you're supporting one of the most evil organizations in the world. You're a horrible person. I can't believe you'd betray me. A lot of people took it very personally. Like I became Catholic to personally slight them somehow. And then of course I got a few Protestant people being like, this is the wrong path. You're doomed or whatever. But I got so much wildly evil pushback.
Tell me about the death threats.
Yeah.
What is that like?
People just telling me I've gotten them before from jokes, but this was the most I've ever gotten in a small amount of time from people who seemed I don't know, real. A lot of the time it's from a random account. So you're or a new account that's clearly made just for trolling. But a lot of these people were real people who were I'm gonna murder you over this. Just saying stuff that I can't even repeat here. Wow. Just the most wild stuff you can imagine, And their grievances were all over the place, from theological perspectives to political, and it was wild. I couldn't believe how negative it was, but also it's so funny because they were all so negative and so many people trying to dissuade me and argue with me and do all this stuff, and it just ended up affirming my faith more.
Yeah,
of course. And then there's the incredibly positive, where not only were Catholics so supportive, but there was an ecumenical sort of sense where lots of Protestants and other people were incredibly positive. Even Muslims, some of my Muslim followers reached out and were really kind to me about the whole thing. So it was a wild sort of the world is divided into these two camps. And these people came out and really showed me what was going on in their heads and how they were going to treat me. And then these people sort of just affirmed everything I had already decided, Yeah,
and as you say, they were all over the map. You had Catholics, Protestants,
exactly.
Muslims, probably atheists, happy.
Yeah.
And then others maybe of the same camps, except Catholic probably.
Yeah.
Although maybe you got some Catholics who are upset. I don't know.
I don't think so. I think most Catholics are pretty good. I saw I got the odd comment here and there of someone being this guy's grifting.
Yeah.
Which is so funny. I have plenty to gain in Hollywood from becoming Catholic. I'm up there with such greats as Mark Wahlberg and others. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't know Mark. It's not helping me, man. I don't know what you like. Definitely not like some thing that I'm doing to try and get ahead. It would be so funny. That's a terrible strategy. You know, if I was going to grift, I don't know what I would do, but it wouldn't be becoming Catholic.
How did you navigate that? How did you navigate the negative and the positive? Did you get to a point where like, I just can't read this anymore?
Yeah, I took a lot of it personally, or not personally, but there was so many like, not heresies, but just blasphemous things that I felt obligated to manage it. Like, I'm not just going to let, 100 people comment something disgusting about the Blessed Mother, or like just all these people saying wild stuff about the Pope or clergy or anything. And I just don't even want that stuff near. So I did absorb all of it. I did like do my absolute best to like monitor thousands of negative comments, which probably in the long run was not great for my mental health. But again, it was faith affirming. There was something about it like, oh, you're all so vile. Like, I'm on to something. Definitely, And so, and then as I was doing that, the positivity, normally how it goes online is you absorb 10 negative comments for every one positive. And that one positive is usually really beautiful and well thought out. And when you think about it, you're like, this person's taking time out of their day to say something. It's all so good. And the evil comment's so easy to just evil, and you just throw it out into the world with no thought. So the good comment should override the evil comments. That's not how it works. You can get 10 good ones and that one evil one is up there. But in this sense, I was getting all these evil comments, but every positive comment from a Catholic cheering me on or whatever really like overrode them in a way. And I was like, what an interesting experience finally to be absorbing the good comments in such a way that I'm like feeling really good. I think it was because there's like a brotherhood and a sisterhood and a real feeling that they understand what I'm going through, as opposed to normally someone's like, 4 people are like, or you're handsome, and then one person says you're ugly, and you go, I am ugly.
I wonder why that is we do that.
I don't know.
People are very rude online, and not even the most gratuitous, disgusting things, but even like the low level, it's not that bad things. So I had Jordan Peterson on, and someone just commented, Jordan's face looks red. Like, what?
Yeah, no, it's
if you were at his show and you got a chance to meet him, you wouldn't be like, hey, your face looks red. Bye.
I think that I have a theory that anonymity plus an audience motivates people to be insane. It really triggers something in your head. If you take one of them away, the anonymity or the audience.
Oh, that's good. You've thought
Do you know
about
what I
this.
mean? Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Because personally, people don't do that,
Yeah, if they got your email, they may not just write you a one line, you're stupid.
Exactly. No one's going to, or like in real life, but when there's an audience, it's a whole thing. So I don't know. I think that's how that works, but I could be off. I'm no philosopher.
Yeah.
But it has been a whole situation with the negativity online. That's been incredible, but it has weaned off. These people, they don't stick with whatever. There were people who were harassing me like every day for like weeks, and then eventually they just give up.
I wonder if it has something to do with the fact that, we're communal beings, we're meant to live in community, and in a way it's more important to know if you've stepped out of line than if you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Because you want to exist within your community and not be ostracized.
I suppose.
And so when someone says you're doing a great job, that means something, hopefully, and hopefully you take it on board. Although often what I do is I'm like, yeah, whatever, you're just lying.
Yeah, that's
but if
what
they say something vile, I'm like, that is the truest thing anyone's ever said, clearly.
Yeah.
That's a universal experience. Everyone experiences that. Even people like, like Matt Walsh, who I've spoken to, and others, like he's a lot more disagreeable than I am. I'm quite agreeable. Whenever I talk to Matt Walsh, I always feel way too enthusiastic.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm just talking like this.
He does have a lachrymose sort of like tone to his voice, very just like, oh yeah, like a sing-songy, unimpressed sort of voice. Some people just have that. I also feel too excited all the time.
Yeah,
I feel like sometimes I get out of a situation and I go, way too much energy. Way too much energy for that situation. Or I feel like people are awkward, like that I just seem too excited to see them. Like they think that I'm being inauthentic or trying to please them. And I'm like, no, I just genuinely love my friends.
Yeah.
You know, or...
Are you like that with strangers who come up to meet you as well?
No, not always, but I think I'm very polite.
Yeah, you are.
I've had people be like, oh, you're especially polite as compared to X, Y, or Z person I've come across in public. So
I think if someone ever said that to me, I'd immediately defend X, Y, and Z.
that's my thing too, where I'm like, well, were they eating?
Yeah,
what were they doing?
exactly.
Like, or they're tired. But I don't give myself that excuse. If I was short with someone because I was tired, I would think about it for a month.
Yeah.
So,
But I mean, even like we were just at the coffee shop and someone came up to say hi to you because they're a fan.
yeah.
That's a story now. So whenever someone says, do you know Shayne Smith? He has a story that he's going to tell.
Right.
But, you know, you could have been feeling ill. Anything could have been going. You could have been in a rush.
I try to push through every time.
Yeah.
And just be like as polite as possible. I do think that. That's the thing where like when you're dating, they're like, say, never text a girl something that wouldn't look good in a screenshot. Because she could like post it online or whatever. So it's just like everything you say, make sure hold yourself accountable, you know, definitely.
Yeah, it's a different day and age. It's crazy to think that I dated. I don't even know if I had a cell phone when I started dating. Or I did, but it was the flip.
Oh yeah, the
phone.
Sidekick or whatever, or the Razor, the T-Mobile Razor. I had one of those. It was indestructible.
It was funny. Did you ever watch that show 24 with Jack Bauer?
Yeah.
I remember they must have been advertising Verizon or whatever because they had that flip phone.
Oh yeah,
And it's like that's the cutting edge technology that CSU is using.
yeah.
You know?
I love that. And then he flips it like a gun all the time, and you're like, ooh, I gotta get one of those. That part
do you
of your
remember
man
how
brain.
addictive that show was?
No, I watched some of it. That show never got that era of TV. Didn't get me. People were like, "You got to watch Lost," and I watched the first season, and I was like, uninteresting to me. Yeah,
It's funny. I tried to go back and watch the first couple of episodes, and I found myself bored.
of Lost or 24.
Of Lost. I don't know if it's because I've already watched it back in 2006. I don't know if it's because TV has changed so much that it's less interesting to me. I'm not sure.
I don't know if the acting holds up either.
Well, what did you get into TV shows that you were like, I love this show and can't stop watching it?
I do that with funny shows.
Yeah.
The first like seasons 2 through 11 of The Simpsons.
Okay.
I rewatch every year. 30 Rock, big fan of that show. I like absurd shows. I watch The Muppet Show all the time.
Okay.
I like everything to do with the Muppets. They're the best.
There are certain shows that I think are objectively good that I can rewatch, and then others that I think are objectively good that I can't rewatch. So, for example, like Seinfeld is a very funny show.
Agreed.
Obviously, it has a lot of immoral content in it, and you got to sift through it, and sometimes it's really disappointing, and maybe there's an argument for why you shouldn't watch that at all, whatever.
Sure.
But the point is, if I tried to watch it, and I go, oh, yeah, I've seen it. I don't know why. I find Seinfeld to be very funny.
I feel that way about not 30 Rock. The Office is very funny and rewatchable.
Yes, I
I've been
agree with
rewatching
that.
The Office recently, and I was like, wow, it really holds up.
Yeah.
Seinfeld is like that. I heard this argument. I can't remember where I heard it. I think someone from the clergy made it, where they were like, it's actually less immoral to watch a show like Always Sunny in Philadelphia than a show like Friends. Because a show like Friends is written in such a way that it's just comfy. You watch it and it's showing you this immoral behavior and stuff, and it just feels
normalized,
normal.
right?
Yeah, it feels very normal. Whereas a show like Always Sunny, which is vastly more offensive, vastly more blasphemous in many ways, is overtly telling you these are bad people.
Okay.
These are jokes. This is bad. This is funny because these people are bad and this situation is bad and what they do is bad.
That's interesting.
So it's almost like the immorality of Friends is that it's written badly and there are no jokes, as opposed to a show that is magnitudes worse on surface level, but morally you understand as you watch it, oh, this is all bad behavior. So what is really worse for you?
That's interesting.
I always thought that was interesting because I've never liked Friends. I think it's unfunny. So
I grew up with Friends, unfortunately, and I would say there was a few episodes that I think are actually brilliant. There's I don't know if you've seen it since you didn't maybe watch it much, but the one where no one's ready. So Ross has this speech he's got to give, and the entire episode takes place within Monica and Rachel's apartment.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And there's almost no kind of sexual humor in this particular episode. And I thought that was extremely funny. But, it's hard to know. Am I just being nostalgic?
Yeah.
Is that what I appreciate? Because I watched this as a kid. If I watched it now, would I find it funny? I don't know. I thought Chandler was really hilarious.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I just never watched the show. As a kid, it didn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
And I was never interested in like, I don't know. I think you have to be interested in the romance parts of the show because it's a comfy show.
Yeah.
There are funny shows that are comfortable and there are funny shows that are more funny and they slide on the scale. Like The Office is perfectly in the middle. It's perfectly comfy, perfectly funny. Whereas Seinfeld is much funnier than it is comfortable. Or a show like The Big Bang Theory is way more comfortable than it is funny by any stretch of the imagination. So whatever, when you're watching it, it's giving you a different experience. Like I think people who watch The Big Bang are more interested in being sort of like almost soothed, like they're just with their friends and it's very relaxed and chill. Maybe I'm not laughing out loud, but the vibes are great.
I've never thought of that. That's a great point.
Whereas I watch Seinfeld and the vibes aren't very good, but there are jokes,
really
you
funny,
know? And so those are the difference. I like shows with jokes, but I feel like some shows like The Office or The Muppets, they like, they ride the line
I don't think
perfectly.
I've ever watched The Muppets.
Really?
Yeah.
You have to like...
Is that a kid's show? Forgive me.
It's half kids, half adults, but it's really absurd. You have to like absurd humor. You have to be willing to like see a puppet frog sword fight a guy. Okay. You know what I mean? Like it's very silly.
I don't know if I've ever been ready for that, but we'll see.
Muppet Treasure Island's an all-time great.
Yeah.
Like top 10 movies ever, in my opinion. I love it. The people are always surprised to hear this, and I'm like, one of my greatest comedic influences is The Muppets.
Frasier was good.
I watched a bunch of Frasier as a kid, and I have no idea why.
It was clever.
I don't think I got it.
Yeah.
I think it was just on at 11
Yeah.
after The Simpsons or something.
I like King of the Hill.
Oh, yeah. King of the Hill's good.
And one of the reasons because I only got into King of the Hill like 2 years ago. Someone told me about it because I'm just old and out of touch. So I'm like,
okay.
I'll watch
Yeah.
it. And I really found it just wholesome in many respects. I haven't seen the whole thing, maybe.
No, it's good.
But one thing I liked about it is I feel like The Simpsons and these other cartoons for adults are funny in the way your friend is funny, but he's kind of sarcastic and biting, and it's kind of exhausting to be around him, even though he's objectively funny.
Sure, yeah.
And then you've got someone who's just kind of wholesomely funny. That's what I liked about King of the Hill. There was always this nice family message.
Yeah.
At least the ones I saw.
I find as I get older, the biting friend, the sarcastic friend, he gets less and less interesting over time. Where you're like, I love you, but I don't want to be exhausted. I want to have a good time. I don't want to have to defend every movie I bring up.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to like hear you be negative about everything. You know, I hate that.
Do you remember that Key and Peele skit where everything he'd say, I forget which character it was, is like, anyway.
Yeah.
Have a thought. Have an original thought. They are very funny. Key and Peele.
Yeah, they kill it. They're really good.
Very funny, yeah.
The Nazi episode where they're pretending to be white.
I haven't seen that.
They have a recurring bit where Nazis come to search their home in Nazi Germany and they like paint their faces white so they look like white people and they're pretending to be white.
Okay.
And it's like insane. It's so absurd. I love anything that's so absurd that it goes out of reality and into silliness. Yeah. Like
what about Monty Python? Do you like that?
It's okay.
See, I think that was for a particular time.
Yeah.
Where being absurd and ironic was like this new idea. And it upset people's expectations. Don't get me wrong, there are objectively funny things within Monty Python, but when I watch it today, it just seems overly silly.
Yeah,
like maybe it kind of gained steam in a stuffy culture where people were just tired of, I don't know, pretending to have it all together, and then this burst on the scene and it was...
Yeah, I think for me, like Steve Martin, like the Two Smoking Guns, like Police Squad. Do you ever see that show?
Back in the day.
Police Squad is one of the all-time greatest shows ever to me personally. Or like that kind of stuff, Mel Brooks, like those kind of comedies where it was silly but still a little grounded in reality. Young Frankenstein and stuff. Again, tons of immoral content, but at least they were silly in a way that was like they're doing physical humor, they're doing situations that aren't real. I love that kind of stuff.
They just did a 2-part series on Apple TV about Steve Martin, kind of celebrating his legacy.
Yeah.
And it was between 2 parts. The first one was his origin and why he became so outrageously popular.
Yeah.
And then today. But watching his early stand-up, I just thought I couldn't understand it.
Yeah,
I'm sure if I was back
like
then, it was amazing, but today I find it so stupid and cringy.
A lot of people like classic stand-up. I can't watch it. None of it hits for me. I'm like,
what do you mean by classic stand-up?
Honestly, stand-up pre 2000s even for me. There's a lot of I can't absorb almost any of it.
And what is it about it you can't absorb?
I don't know.
Because I feel like Seinfeld's evergreen.
Yeah.
Do you think when you watch his stuff back in the day and he's talking about being a kid at Halloween and wearing those masks that are cutting into your eyeballs?
Yeah.
But you got to get the candy.
Yeah. I guess some of Seinfeld is good. I'm not a huge Seinfeld guy, but I do like some of his stuff. I guess some of it can be. Mitch Hedberg is like one of those guys from in those early eras, early to late, like the transition into modern, that I think is really good.
But what is it? Because when I watch Steve Martin, I think, this is no offense to him, I just think it was a different time.
No, I think so too. Even Robin Williams, I'm not a huge fan of his stand-up.
Okay.
I understand that he's killing. I mean, he's in that like one special where he's in the arena wearing the suspenders.
Okay, I haven't seen it.
And he's just like absolutely murdering for just like, an incredible amount of people. And he's like he's clearly doing like a riff about being a trucker. Okay. And like he's killing. And I'm watching it being like, this would bomb on TikTok. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it doesn't look right to me.
I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out. Because if you watch these guys back in the day and you watch them today, there's a shift that's taken place in them too. Yeah. It's not like you didn't like him back then and you don't like him today. I mean, maybe that's the case, but I'm thinking of Steve Martin. I would imagine his stand-up today I would find a lot more relatable than back in the 70s. Yeah. So what happened? And
he did a newer stand-up special that was really good. I can't remember what it was called. He plays the banjo a bunch in it.
So what is it about us that receives comedy differently, I guess is what I'm asking. What is it about the 70s stand-up comedy that when we watched, now we cringe, and even they have transformed to deliver it in a way that we would receive today?
I don't know. I think contextually, comedy is always based around what society is up to and how it feels. Yes. And I just think that we're so far away from whatever mindset people in the 70s had.
Yes.
They were transitioning. I think that society was in such a transitionary period in the 70s. Yeah. Like in a way that like we can't grasp. Where there's, especially in America.
It'd be like the explosion of the Beatles and how they were treated.
Yeah.
Like try doing that today.
That
came
would be
out
like
of a particular.
It would be like us trying to explain to people in the 70s how the internet was going to change society. They would be like, what are you saying to me right now? Like, everyone's connected now. Every hobby is valid. Every interest has a community. Like, this can't be possible. This can't and you're like, oh, it's not only is it possible, it's definitely not great.
Yeah.
It's also not the worst either. That's the double-edged sword of the internet.
Who's the Bill Burr, is his name?
Yeah, that's a guy.
Bald-headed guy.
Yeah, the redheaded gentleman.
I don't know if it was him or someone else, but they said they like comedians who make them feel like everything's okay. Maybe it wasn't him.
I don't know if...
you know who it was? Who's that black comedian, bald, hilarious, lives in Ohio?
Oh, Chappelle.
Yeah, I think it was Chappelle who said that. And when he said that, I got it. Because, again, maybe this goes back to the sarcastic, biting friend versus the guy who just makes you feel calm.
Yeah.
When I watch, like, Brian Regan, I feel like he's not about to make fun of somebody in a dirty way that makes me feel gross for enjoying it.
Yeah.
He's kind of making fun of himself in a playful way, and we see ourselves in him, and we all kind of relax a little. I really like that.
Yeah. When you watch a comedian, you're kind of, like, trusting him or her to, like, guide you into a place where you're going to enjoy yourself. That's sort of the fun part of, like, edgy comedy, where you're scared that they're going to hurt you, but then it's funny. Okay. You're like, oh, good. That was great. And I think that a lot of people nowadays, especially with crowd work, a lot of people in the crowd are like, please don't be evil to this person. Know. And a lot of the time they are. And I'm like, what are you doing? They paid.
That's right. That's the opposite of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
When I say I just want to feel like it's going to be okay.
I hate that style of crowd work. I've done crowd work in the past a lot, and I don't do it anymore because I just don't have time. The way my style of comedy works, I do like 2 stories and my hour set is over. But like I used to do crowd work, and I always thought it was funniest to build someone up no matter what they say, because people will just if you ask the right questions, they'll reveal to you like embarrassing things or their living situation or relationship situation, and it's very rarely ideal. None of us are living in the ideal life, right. And so I always like hearing someone's negative and then turning it into a positive. I think it's so funny. Everyone's gonna laugh anyway, and now these people are leaving and they're like, that was good.
Yes,
we all feel good about this. Like once I was doing crowd work and there was this dude in the front row and he was by himself, and I was like, you came to a comedy show by yourself. That's freaking awesome. Yeah. I do love that. I go to shows by myself, and I was like, that's amazing, and I'm talking him up, and I was like, what do you do for a living? And he was like, or I was like, what are you interested in? And he was like, I'm mostly just interested in anime. And I was like, are you making it really difficult? Like I thought you were gonna. And then I was like talking to him, trying to build him up, and I was like, well, what do you do for a living at the time? And he was like, oh, I'm unemployed. Oh. And I had to just be like, this is the coolest guy here. Yeah, he just, ladies, he hangs out all day and watches cartoons. He's set to take care of you.
He's honest.
Yeah,
he's not trying to be someone he's not.
Exactly. You know exactly what you're gonna get. This man commits. He's gonna be there all day, every day for you. And I was like building him up, and it was really funny. But I was like, not making it easy for me, man. Mm-hmm. But that's the way to do it. I think it's funnier to positively build people up. I did a roast battle once where I just complimented the other person,
because that was the
and I ended up winning. Yeah,
because that was the classic of Norm Macdonald's roast of Seagate or Bob
Seger.
Yeah,
where he said like nice things or whatever. I think that's a strategy that I didn't invent in it by any means, but I think it's very funny.
Are people trying to do that more? I guess no, right? Most people who go to a roast.
No, roast battling is like incredibly common, and people are just
I don't know why anyone would subject themselves to that. Well, just read your YouTube comments. Isn't that a roast enough?
It's insane. It's so popular because roasting got popular that like open micers and stuff started doing it. So then there's this like, you're like a guy who's like 2 years into your career. You have, you have no heat. You're not famous by any means. You're just doing your best. And someone's like, do you want to come be humiliated? And of course you say yes, because you just want stage time. Aww. But now you're writing jokes. Like the reward to risk factor is not there at all. Yeah. Anytime someone asks me if they should do a roast, I'm like, no, don't roast. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. But some people love it. Some people have like this incredibly thick skin, and I have thick skin, but I'm also not going to subject myself to that.
Yeah.
I think I have some semblance of like human dignity left in me.
Well, now you're a Catholic. It's a self-roast. It's called confession. But you're doing it to someone who loves you and wants to forgive you and read you. That's better.
I had my first confession.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, I went to confession. It was hilarious. So, I got baptized like two and a half months ago or whatever. And so recently I was like, I'm gonna go to confession for my first time. I want to have this experience. I need it, whatever. So I'm nervous. Obviously, I've never confessed before, and I'm like, and so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go. My parish doesn't have a box.
Okay.
My parish is a small parish in the suburbs. My priest is the sweetest guy. You just make an appointment, come to his office, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not about to do that. Yeah. I'm not interested in doing that. So not yet anyway. And so I'm nervous. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to the main cathedral where they have like a confession line, and they have multiple like boxes. I'm going to be behind the screen. I'm safe behind the screen. Yep. I'm going to confess. I'm going to say my prayer of contrition. This is going to be great. So I go, I'm like kind of sitting there. Adoration is happening and we're doing confession. And I walk into the cathedral. It's beautiful, whatever. And I'm like kind of standing there awkwardly, like, do I knock on the door? Like, how does it? And this lady's like, oh, you're here for confession? And I was like, I am. And she's like, oh, good. And she's like, someone's in there, but when he comes out, you're next. And I was like, oh boy. And so this guy comes out, and it's like the booth,
Yeah.
So I open the door thinking it's just going to be a little thing, and I'm going to sit behind the screen just like in a movie. Mm-hmm. And I open the door, and there is a screen, but it's just like kind of set up. And then the father, he's just sitting, and we're just looking at each other. And so now I have the choice.
This was a trap.
Yeah. So I could walk and kneel behind the screen, or I could sit in a chair.
Which almost feels insulting.
No, that's what it was. I was like, well, great. And so I just very awkwardly was like, I can't just go behind the screen now. He saw me. I'm me, and it just feels stupid. So I was like, all my best laid plans were laid to rest, and I just sat in front of him and was like, hello, and just like stared at the ground awkwardly and sadly, and made my confession, said my prayer of contrition. And he was so sweet and like really loving, and like thanked me for being honest and coming to confession, and encouraged me to come back. And it was like a really beautiful experience. And then also it was great because they have mass directly after confession at that cathedral. So I confessed and then immediately received the Eucharist, and I was like, this is beautiful. My faith is incredible. I love this. And but yeah, it was so funny to to think I was going to be secretly behind a screen and kind of like feel a little safer for my first confession. And then he was like, "Pop a squat.
Yeah.
let's have a chat." And I was just like, no, I can't believe.
Now, you have an interesting experience that a lot of converts don't, because a lot of people were baptized as babies, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then they get confirmed, and then maybe they go to confession, and there's a lot to confess. Whereas you were baptized,
Yeah.
so you don't have to confess any of the stuff that took place up until your baptism.
I know.
Did you still kind of want to?
No.
Good.
No, I felt my baptism was an incredible experience. I feel
please tell me about it.
so good about it. So yeah, it was great. Thursday flew down. We hung out, went and bought guns, and like prowled around, got tattooed. Went and saw the Mormon temple. I
think you sent me that photo of Thursday just carrying a shotgun through a parking lot.
Yeah. It's very funny. So we had a great time. Yeah, and getting tattooed was fun. But then, we went to the Easter Vigil, and it was great. My parish baptized, I can't remember, 12 people or something. And then confirmed a few others.
Did you go through RCIA with these folks?
I went through half of RCIA with them and half in New York.
Did they know who you were? I guess
they knew who I was very well. Yes. Yeah. The deacon and his wife at my parish ran the RCIA, and like I don't think I missed one. Mm-hmm. I think I missed one RCIA in the entirety of the year I went. So.
Were there people there who knew of you from your comedy but didn't realize you were getting baptized, or no?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I started going to this men's group too. And then some people from the men's group came and like brought me a gift, and like so many kind people. Truly like the best experience. The Salt Lake Catholic community is incredible. Sikh should definitely be there. They're correct to do it. Yeah. And so, but yeah, my baptism was wild. It was such a good experience. And
how did you prepare for it? You know what I mean? Like internally.
You know what? I thought like, okay, I'm gonna have to do all this. Like it's this very serious thing. I'm gonna be like so deep in prayer and like really, really crazy about this. And I wasn't. Yeah. I was just kind of like, well, here it is. Like, I'm just going to receive these gifts. Yeah. Like, what an incredible time. And I just really, like, enjoyed the time with my friends and family, and then got baptized. And so I even invited, like, some of my secular family who's didn't understand what was going on or how it was happening and stuff. They came through for me, so that was fun. But yeah, it was good. And the feeling of being baptized was definitely, like, wild. Especially considering I had so much that you don't realize how much you're holding on to till you confess, or till you're baptized. You know, there's like a weight on you from the sins of your past or whatever, that if you can't let go, but someone else, it's almost like God, it's like you're holding on. You know, like a kid is holding on.
That. Yeah.
You know what a better, more comedic effect would be? You know when a dog has something in its mouth and it won't let it go, and you're like, let it go. And you're like trying to shake your dog's mouth. It's all gross. And he's like, and then it falls out. And you're like, there it is. He ate a Lego. That was God with me and my sin. Just let it go. And I'm just a gross dog trying to eat a Lego. But the Lego's out and I feel great, man. No need to go to the vet.
That is terrific. Yeah, I know. Sometimes when you have those objectively profound experiences or profound events, there can be a pressure to sort of manufacture within yourself how you think you should be feeling.
Yes.
As opposed to just receiving whatever comes.
I am tuned into that. I'm incredibly fortunate to have thought that same thought. And so as baptism was approaching, I kind of thought to myself, no, don't like make it more than it needs to. It's enough. Yeah. And so I just really enjoyed the time. We hung out, like it was really casual. I remember at one point it was like 6 p.m., like way before, like 2.5 hours before we were supposed to meet at the parish. And I was just kind of like, I'm about to get baptized. In like 3 hours, I'll be sinless, you know? And we were just like kind of joking about it, goofing off, like playing video games, like, yeah, it was great. And then it allowed me to just be in the experience. I just cried the whole time. It's like a 2-hour service. I was just crying the whole time. Yeah, it was weird, but it was great. It was so beautiful. And then, I had never experienced the service before. So there's like the candles and everyone being together. And my parish was like jam packed. Like there were people just standing. So I was like, this is great. It felt awesome. And apparently the Diocese of Salt Lake baptized like a record number of people that year.
Wow.
So yeah, it's been awesome.
And how was receiving Eucharist for the first time?
Crazy. That was like being baptized was like this feels beautiful, and sort of over time I kind of felt that weight lifted off me. But the Eucharist was like, you are feeling something right now. This is physically happening to you. You are like, receiving the host. And it's something I'd looked forward to and kind of imagined, and you see it in popular media, and I've watched you and other people I look up to and like wanted to participate in Mass fully. So getting to receive was like, I don't know, it was just weird. Like I went and sat afterwards in the pew, and I was just like washed over with this like incredible feeling. That was like, again, I'm already crying the whole time. So I don't really know like where the emotion is coming or going, but it was incredible. I felt every time I take the Eucharist, I sort of like really take time to like, this is what's happening. This is thousands of years of tradition. This is, the life's work of the priest to even be able to consecrate that. Like I'm thinking about every step that had to happen for me to get to this point. And I'm always really conscious of it, and it like makes it special every time. I try to really meditate on that, not just the fact that Christ dies for you and now the host is available and you're receiving this grace and how it makes you feel, but like truly everything, like the people who built this church, the thousands of years of like martyrs and people sacrificing in order for us to get here, all the hardships.
Maybe the convents who made the hosts themselves.
Right? Yeah, like everything. And then the life's work of the priest, like how difficult seminary is, the fact that often in America, like our priests are from another, like they came all the way from X, Y, and Z place and studied just so they could consecrate this, and now they're sharing that with me. It's like this whole thing where I'm like, this is very beautiful, and so it's been awesome.
Have you had people reach out for advice on their own journey? I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So first it was like lose 10,000 followers. Death threats, crazy people saying the most vile things you can imagine. Lots of people, some people who I was acquaintances with being like, you've betrayed me. This is the wrong decision, attacking me. And then lots of positivity. And then I started to gain followers back. And a lot of them were Christian or people who were discerning religion. And then over time, it sort of became this thing where now a lot of the religious messages I receive are people discerning religion or having questions. And then over time, people who in the past have been vile to me or I've fallen out with, or people who even criticized me when I first converted are now like apologizing and being like, well, can I ask you a question? And so I've been like pretty deep in kind of almost doing apologetics for like a crazy amount of people. I've thought about making videos about just some simple questions, like the amount of people who have just asked me like, how you're a rational person, how can you believe in God from a rational standpoint? Yeah. And I think there are lots of good reasons to believe in God from a rational standpoint. I mean, beginning with just like the Big Bang, the universe has a beginning, which means there wasn't always material in the world, so that must insinuate an immaterial start to the material world. And that's a pretty good argument. Like you tell that to someone and they go, and then they have to science the gaps to fill the space, which then of course we could go out of the gaps of space. But it's interesting. So I've been answering a lot of those questions, and then a lot of theological questions too, which has been interesting. And then every once in a while I'll get a Protestant follower or friend who's like, let me ask you a question about saints or Mary, or what's the deal with icons or things like that. So it's made me have to like up my apologetic ability, really.
The less we see each other as a threat, the more open we are to dialoguing with each other. Right. So, Catholics and Protestants have been separated for 500 years. We use language differently. Often it feels like Protestants are trying to misunderstand what we mean when we say things, and I'm sure vice versa, where it's almost like the Protestant might say to the Catholic, you just read an apologetic point from your Catholic apologetic book 15 years ago, and you haven't even bothered to actually dialogue with a real Protestant about what we mean when we say this, right?
Yeah.
But the point is, when we can just not be a threat to each other, we can say, well, what do you mean by it? And
yeah.
another thing I try to do when I'm dialoguing with Protestants is make it clear that, yes, I want you to become Catholic, as opposed to pretending I don't.
Yeah,
and like,
I do that same thing.
Yeah.
I dialogue with a lot of people who
like,
are
I want
like,
you to become Catholic, but I understand that if you don't do that, like, I love you, and like,
Yeah.
especially if we're people we've been friends with, in the past.
I've done that with Catholicism to my to my religious brothers and sisters who aren't Catholic, and I've done that in terms of just Christianity with people who dialogue with me who are like, well, I'm like, of course I think I'm right. And I want you to take part in this, and I make that very clear. I think that helps people a lot, where you're just like overtly like, yeah, obviously this is working great for me. I feel amazing. There are like physical, mental, and emotional benefits to this that aren't even spiritual. So like, come on in, the water's great, but I'll answer your questions too. So that's been good. But yeah, the amount of apologetics I've done. But I have felt really great about the ecumenical sort of brotherly love I've received. A lot of Protestants really have been incredibly positive and like super cool about it.
Nice.
And so I like that. I think that especially in our modern times, it's such a way that like there's clearly a shift between like family oriented people and people who are just kind of like doing something else, paganism. I don't know. And so it's negative and not great. And I think a lot of people are kind of like, so many people, like a lot of people have reached out to me and been like, wait, so you don't watch porn? That's a huge one where they're like, how? And I'm like,
oh, it's beautiful.
And then my response is always like, the fact that you're asking me how I don't tells me you have a problem. And then they're always like, wow, I guess I do, and then I'm like, yeah, you do. It's really bad for you, because I've been pretty unapologetic about talking publicly about like, oh yeah, I've like desexualized my Instagram. I still follow or I'm friends with people who are like in the business of being lewd or whatever. Like, I'm not going to just cut these people out of my life. I want to be there for them. And I've answered some of their questions, and I think I've helped some of them in a big way, but I also am not going to consume their content and stuff. So while I want to do things like be in the world but not of the world, I definitely also have like muted and like done my best to like maintain my own personal boundaries. And I think that's been like so good for my brain that when I talk about it, other dudes are like, huh, really? And I'm like, yeah, it's awesome. You're going to rewire your brain and feel so much. It's going to make your relationship better. Like if you're married and you're going to like, if someone posts bikini photos, even on Instagram, mute them immediately. Mute everybody who does anything like that and watch how much better it makes you feel about your wife. It really will. Like, and so I've preached that, and a lot of people have been like, wow, it's really working, which has been really cool. So even just small lifestyle changes like that, like giving people a taste of the Christian life and then being like, and look at the fruits of this logically, how much better you're going to feel about women and see women in your relationships with people are going to change and rewire your own brain. And like, that's just from like a logical standpoint. Now come over here and see all the other stuff we have to offer that's going to make your life more fulfilling and better. So I think that's like the strategy for me lately. So it's been good, but I really have like a lot of my online presence nowadays has been spent just answering people's questions.
I feel like Americans in particular really do not like to be told what to do. I've just spent the last 5 months in Austria, and Austria is a very rule-abiding country with rule-abiding people.
Yeah.
If you're at a coffee shop and you've got a shoe up on a seat, someone will say, hey, take your foot off the seat. And people do that. And of course, anyone with the foot up of the seat is me, not the Austrians, because they know no savage person would do that. And I feel like if you said anything, even that gently in America, there's like this... Maybe it's this, I don't know what it is. And
mind
maybe
your
I'm
business.
Wrong. Yeah, mind your business. Or like, I'm going to put both of them up now, like this rebelliousness.
Yes, yeah.
So I almost feel like going out and saying, and maybe that's true of all humans, right? We're all rebellious to a point, but saying to people, don't look at porn, it's almost more convincing to be like, hey, I used to look at porn and decided not to, and my life's so much better, and have them with their guard down now ask you, how did you do that?
Yeah, there's Americans have like a rugged individualism that defines us in a weird way, and so you have to trick us. Yes. You really do. And I think that humans aren't the individualism in America, I think is a negative. I do think it's a negative. Self-sufficiency and individualism don't have to be the same thing. You can be self-sufficient, counted on, unique, unrepeatable, and wonderful without being individualistic. And I think that the fact that we've married the two things is deeply bad for society. And so I do try to communicate that to people, where I'm like, one of the best parts of the Christian life is no longer being an individual, giving up, like letting it go. God is just like, let it go. Like sometimes I just have problems and I'm like, God, I do not have this under control. Help me, and then, but you need to extend that to the church and the community, like your brothers and sisters. You need to be able to like reach out to someone, your priest or a friend or the men's group you go to or whatever, and be like, I do not have this. Help me, Yeah. So, it's really, that's a good part, but for Americans, that's so difficult.
I feel like the tide is changing, and I can't tell if it's because of who I hang out with and the content I watch, whether this is actually the case or not. But it felt like when I grew up in the late 80s and throughout the 90s, that porn was cool.
Yeah.
And if you didn't like porn, you were the problem. You were frigid and uptight, and something may be wrong with you. And of course, this comes from Kinsey and Hefner and all the propaganda. But I'm seeing that today, people who are like, yeah, I'd rather not masturbate to pictures of women pretending to like me. Now that seems like the cool thing, and I think it was always the cool thing, of course.
Of course.
But what happened? Do you see that more
I
generally?
I think that we
just redefined porn. Sorry to interrupt you, but because you watch Netflix today, and it's absolutely pornographic in a lot of their shows. So it's maybe we've just redefined what we mean by it.
I think it's that there was a glamour, like a sort of like you were the Hefners and stuff. And there was a sort of, I think that there were people in third wave feminism as it began to emerge. Because remember, second wave feminism was anti-porn. They were like, sort of like, how is this empowering to women?
Okay.
Go be a scientist. What are you doing? And then third wave feminism was kind of like anything a woman chooses is empowering or whatever. And then they were very pro sex work, which is the term they use, which is a weird term, but it makes it sound like you're working.
Yeah,
I don't know.
No,
you're like you're clocking in at the sex factory or whatever. So, but like it's a whole thing, and so I don't know. When third wave feminism did that, and then second wave feminism, but the whole idea is that there was a glamour, and then that sheen has been removed because the internet is too good. We can all just see the reality. You can just be like, oh, that woman's not living some like posh lifestyle where she's well respected and everything's going great. She's just kind of like a girl who's doing her thing, and it's like not.
She's wounded. She's hurt.
Yeah. It's like bad, or just like watching people be like, I have OnlyFans, and you're like, why? And they're like, because I couldn't pay my bills, and you're like, that is really bad. It's the worst situation. Like, and I think we see that, and all of us are kind of like, oh, I don't want to participate in this. It's kind of gross.
Yeah. Well, even other things, not just pornography, but I feel like it's kind of cool to save sex till marriage now. Or even like Jordan Peterson in his latest book, he kind of condemns cohabitation.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Like we were saying that. You can't just come here at the last minute.
Yeah. Exactly. Just ride the wave or whatever. Yeah, that kind of stuff is so funny.
But again, I might be so out of it, right?
And that's my thing is I'm trying to be like, over the past year, I've done so much to take a wildly secular life where I was sort of like, everything is permitted based on just like, if people think it's good for them. And over time, like, you're online, you're trying to change your online presence, you're trying to change what you consume. It's this incredibly lengthy process. And now I'm like, am I out of touch? Did I like detach myself so much that I don't understand what's going on? Because to me as well, online, like, it does seem like so many people are so interested in like chastity and in like being kind and all these other like, opinions that are from Christian life that I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
You know, I'll post about...
Well, I guess it's like when degeneracy reaches a peak, it's now cool to be counter-degenerate, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, that would be what happened with punk rock and straight edge, where like punk rock was sort of like, do drugs, don't participate in society, opt out of society. And then, you know, hardcore and straight edge came along and were like, actually, you're not doing anything except for killing yourself. So what if we opted into society but actually tried to be good and like took care of ourselves and like we're actually there for our friends and family, you know, which is, but like maintained the spirit of punk rock, which I think is like something that people nowadays are doing. I think younger people are like, oh,
It's clearly the more masculine thing.
100%.
I mean, think of the man who gives into porn all the time, and then the man who's striving to be free of it. Maybe he occasionally falls, but he gets up and does his real darndest to be out of it. One guy, all that's required of him over here is to give in. Just give in to the passions that are, whipping you and driving you around. Whereas the other guy has to grow in humility, moral courage, respect of himself and others, how he uses his time, what he replaces that behavior with. Like you're actually, it's the difference between the couch potato who never works out and the guy who works out because even though he doesn't want to, who cares? It's not about that. You know, like one takes actual effort, one requires giving in.
It's true.
Giving in is not attractive.
No, it's not. An effeminate man will never deny himself.
Yeah.
So that's just like...
Oof, that's a great line.
Yeah. So that's just how it works. You know, to deny yourself is masculine for sure. And I think a womanly trait is to deny others. Does that make sense?
No.
So like it's a womanly trait to be like, I'm actually in charge.
Okay.
I'm not going to do what you say, because women make themselves small so often. And that's why, like, I think men just give in to their pleasures all the time.
I think
women are sort of like in this weird position where they make themselves small and just like do what men say or whatever. I think it's a very womanly trait.
I think it depends on the situation. Like if a woman is being tyrannized and bossed around, then I think it is feminine, and because it just means virtuous, I guess, to stand up and to repel that. But when a woman's in a loving relationship with a man, she gives herself over to him and submits to him in a healthy sense.
A mutual submission, of course, because he's like, I'll put you first. I'll always take care of you.
Think of the embrace.
Like
you're dating right now. I hope you don't mind me just saying that out loud.
No, for sure.
But I mean, you probably don't daydream about her embracing you. If you daydream, it's probably about you're the one giving the embrace.
Yes.
And if she's daydreaming, she's not like, I just want to hold Shayne in my arms. Even in our physicality, the woman wishes to give herself over to the strength, and the strength, I think, wishes to protect and to...
For sure. I was more saying like a single woman, like a man who's like, I would like we should hook up, and she says, no.
Yeah.
This is my boundary. I think that's very womanly.
Which is funny because I remember a woman saying like, even my sins are masculine. And she was talking about fornicating and porn. And there's a sense in which that is extra shameful. Like there's a sense in which, you tell me what you think, because I'm thinking this through.
Okay,
so I might be wrong, and so I'm open to pushback here. But if a woman looks at pornography or a woman is fornicating, I think that is more of a masculine sin.
Sure.
And you might say, well, the shame is there because we just haven't acknowledged that this is everywhere already.
Yeah.
Or you might say the shame is there because it's particularly shameful for a woman to do this. And I think that's probably true. I think maybe both are true. Like a masculine sin might be some sort of passivity at the expense of others. And in that, maybe he would say that's a feminine sin. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I think that... we run into like a space.
Here you go. Sorry, I want to try to express myself well because I'm afraid I'm not.
I feel like I also agree with you, and I'm like, how do I express
well, here's
this?
the thing. If I came into work every day and I was kind of emotional and I'd cry and I'd run to the bathroom and Thursday's like, dude, are you okay? That's just like if a woman did that, you'd be like, it's not good. Like a mature, virtuous woman shouldn't be doing that. But that seems more of a feminine trait gone bad
for sure
than a masculine trait gone bad. Like that's all the worse if a man is doing that.
If you come in and punch a wall, it's like
that's more masculine,
that's not great,
not good,
but that
better
does
than crying
register.
In the bathroom saying you don't care about me Thursday.
Yeah. I think that we run into this space where it's like you think we call like a woman watching pornography or fornicating masculine, and that insinuates like an extra negative connotation towards masculinity, but that's not really what we mean. We just mean that when you do something that's out of character with the natural law or where we feel you should be, it feels extra shameful. Just like I feel like if a man is cowardly, he feels like it's feminine.
Yeah.
That's not to say that there's anything feminine to do with cowardness.
Right.
There's not. Women give birth. They're not cowards. They're the exact opposite, in fact.
They will put themselves in front of someone and be destroyed for their children.
Exactly. There's nothing cowardly about a woman or femininity, but because it's contrary to our nature, we define it as feminine because femininity is not our nature. We are far away from the divine feminine. And so you associate cowardness with that, and it feels extra wrong. That's like a sin for a man that's like extra bad. And I feel like the same thing when a woman is like extra promiscuous or whatever, and she's like, she feels guilty because not only is it a sin, but it feels masculine. It just feels out of step with natural law.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I even think I've stopped saying effeminate, because often the behavior that we're condemning in a man is also shameful in a woman.
Yeah.
So I've started to say either like it's kind of cream puffery or, or unmasculine, something like that.
Yeah, pathetic.
Yeah. I don't know if I ever told you this, but I used to go to strip clubs when I was 16 and 17 because I sucked.
Okay.
And me and my friends would be...
Me and you both, by the way.
Me and my friends would be standing outside, plucking up the courage to try to get in without having our IDs checked. And I remember one friend would never come in with us, and he wasn't preachy about it. I think he said something like what I said before. He's like, no, I'll meet you here afterwards. I don't think I'm better than you. I just don't think it's a manly thing to have to pay women money to pretend to like you.
Yeah.
Oh,
brutal.
Because he's exactly right.
He is exactly right. Yeah. I went to a bachelor party right before I was baptized, and like half the bachelor party was like, let's go to a strip club, and the other half was like, absolutely not. And I was so proud of like a bunch of my friends who I expected to be degenerates were like, never in our lives. What are you talking about? And I was like, wow, what a weird shift.
Cool.
Because I do feel like 5 years ago, this group of people who I'm friends with, everyone would be like, yeah, we should. And now people are voicing their opinions like, oh no, actually, I'm not going to be pressured into this. I think that sucks. And I was like, yeah, that rocks. And they're like, let's all like go play pool or something together and hang out.
I was in Slovenia recently to meet Melania Trump. She wasn't there.
I was like,
she didn't even let me know.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I am. I was at
beautiful
that's what we're doing.
Slovenia.
I'm going to just show my ignorance. I didn't even know of Slovenia before. I've been traveling all over Europe. They asked me to come. Cluj-Napoca. No, that was in Romania. Where was I in? Ljubljana, I think. Ljubljana. I can't pronounce any of the words they say, which is brutal when they ask you to sign books. Another humble brag. Because the way they say their name is not at all how it seems to be spelt to me, so that was fun. Anyway, so I'm in this city, and someone who's much bigger than me and could just rip my face off and throw it in the river, was wearing a giant placard advertising strip clubs, and vulgar things were were written across it. Oof. And he's just walking up the main...
In English?
Yes, in English. Probably getting tourists, right?
Yeah.
Walking up the main street. I don't know what possessed me. I looked at him and I said, shame on you. Shame on you. Shame. Shame. And he kept walking away looking at me like I was crazy.
Wow.
I'm so proud of me.
Really? You just like were filled...
Shame on you.
You were just filled with courage to be like, ugh.
How you could be doing anything and you're like inviting people to do this? You're a shameful man.
It is gross.
Here's my point is last time you were here, you said we need to remasculinize Christianity.
Boom.
So when you were at this bachelor party and they're like, let's go to a strip club, I really think instead of being like, no, dude, we're not doing that, I think some shaming is in order.
Yeah.
And by shaming, what I mean is I'm trying to show you how you should feel. The fact that you don't feel shame shows me that alarm bells should be going off.
Yeah, yeah.
But they're not. I'm going to help them go off.
We were roasting them quite hard. So
tell me how you did it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were saying inappropriate things for sure, but we were just like, you got like, it is the like, you're going to pay someone to what? You want to be horny with your friends? Think it through.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? You know, it's like, what do we gain from this? That was my thing with porn that I've told a lot of people. A lot of people were like, well, I have no religious inclination. I don't think it's a sin. Why should I not do it? And I'm like, take Pascal's wager. If porn is bad for you and strip clubs are bad and sexualization of women and monetization of their bodies is bad, then you are participating in like the destruction of the human soul, the destruction of women's lives, the destruction, or, you know, you're helping make it way more difficult for them to find happiness and love in the future. You're wounding them. You're wounding yourself. You're hurting your own dopamine receptors, your own libido.
You're filling your brain with memories that you have to deal with should you one day get married.
Exactly. You're filling yourself with expectations that are unreasonable for a woman who may love you like unconditionally. You're also filling yourself with experiences that how are you going to square with these if you have a daughter? Like all these types of things, right? And then what do you gain what do you lose if you stop? What? You have more free time? Like, take the wager. It's Pascal's wager all the way on this one. Like, if you just don't, now what? You have more time to pursue your hobbies. You have more time to date. You have more time to do positive things. Like, you're not losing anything, you know? Like, if you could just get over the hump of having to, and play on words, whatever. But if you could get over the hump of like the sort of compulsion to masturbate or give in to sexual desire, once you get over that and you sort of, I mean, you're never in the clear, as we both know.
Yeah.
But
There's
you
more
can get to a point
from your
where
overlords.
you're having days where you just don't think about it. You know, not all of us are going to be, who's the saint who bit his own tongue off and spit it in a woman's face?
I don't know, but I want to.
Yeah, apparently some royal guy sent like a prostitute to a saint's room to try and tempt him, and he bit off his own tongue and spit it in her face. And I was like, okay, well, that's one way to do that for sure.
I mean, I know the story of Aquinas who took the firebrand and chased the prostitute out.
Yeah,
but
that's
biting
pretty
your
good.
tongue off. I'm gonna see.
Yeah, please. And so, I like, you know, I do have moments where I feel like that too, where I've had people like come in to tempt me or flirt with me or whatever, and I'm like, absolutely not. What do you think you're doing? Like, you're better than this, you know, or whatever.
Well, maybe you're not, but I am.
yeah, and maybe you're not, but I hope you will be one day.
So John Henry, who you met this morning, he teaches high school students, and one thing he told me that he says to them is like, look, you don't have to right now accept everything the church teaches about Catholic morality. Live it anyway, because if you're wrong, God will forgive you, but nature won't.
Yeah.
Isn't that good?
That's really
so if you
good.
start screwing around or looking at porn, yeah, God will absolutely forgive you, but you have to deal with the effects of running into a brick wall.
Yeah. I never thought, I never had the foresight, obviously, I lived like a very secular life, to see how promiscuity was going to affect you down the road. It's going to hurt people you love you've never met before.
Wow.
That's something that, like, if you're a young woman or a young man, promiscuity and the sexualization of all people is going to hurt someone you love you've never met yet. You know, like that person, your future husband, your future wife, future girlfriend, your future father-in-law, there's someone you've never met who you could be hurting by taking part in this. And I didn't realize that until much too late.
Yeah.
And now you're like, you know, it just is what it is. We all have challenges. We all have our crosses to bear. But that's something that, like, if I could go talk to my younger self, I'd be like, you have no idea that the things you do could affect like your wife in the future. So maybe don't. Maybe chill out a little bit, you know? And
well, how did you begin to sort of rewire things? You've already talked about muting Instagram things, but
yeah.
I'm sure it was a much longer process. What have you put into play that those who are watching right now might be able to as well?
So, I mean, when it started, it was simple. It was just like, it was trying not to watch porn. And then it was sort of like, and then I stopped doing that. And then, you know, you do it in steps. I didn't try to take it all at once because that's just like the craziest thing to do, is to make one huge sweeping life. We get excited and then you're like, it's like not Atkins, what keto diet? It's like you go keto, you're going to gain more weight.
For a week.
Yeah, you're going to gain more weight when you yo-yo out of it. And so I thought, well, I can't do everything at once, so I just took it a step at a time, you know? I quit porn before I quit masturbating, type thing. And then you go to the next thing, and I just had like this checklist as I went, like, okay, I'm dealing with this well, now it's time to add a little. Now it's time to mute these people. Now it's time to do this. And I just sort of like took it over time. If I was to talk to like young people, I would be like, you just ask yourself what you're trying to accomplish by what you post and what you consume. Like anytime I'm like on Instagram, if I go to, I've like gone to post something and I've been like, why am I posting this? Like my friend and I were working out and I was going to post us like shirtless because we were just goofing off, flexing in the gym. And I had to stop and be like, make sure you're not posting this for the kind of attention that you may receive for it. This is a post about how it is fun to be in shape with your friend. You know, like I had to really make sure like, why am I posting this? And I think people should. Why are you posting that photo in a bathing suit? What are you doing? Whose attention do you want? What do you think you're accomplishing? You know, and if the answers come back to you positive, then yeah, post it. The context matters. But like, what are you doing? And I do that for like what I post and what I consume. So then I began to be like, oh, why am I consuming this girl's content? She is my friend. I'm not going to like block her and be rude, but I'm going to mute her now, you know? And so there was a lot of that where I had to ride the line between like someone who would say, you have to block all these people or whatever, and sort of be like, well, no, but I can like be true to myself and my boundaries and not just remove people from my life who maybe I don't agree with or who are overly sexual or whatever. Yeah. So that would be the thing where like, you don't have to go nuts. You don't have to like hand a nun your phone and let her like go sicko mode on everything. But you could also like be accountable to yourself consistently.
Yeah, although I would, and you'd probably agree with this, if you've tried different things and you're still falling, it might be time to go hardcore.
Right. That's the thing.
Idea that you need to live with a smartphone, is that true?
Exactly.
Is it? Yeah. Because it might not be.
I'm with you. Yeah. I think that you have to... It's the thing that I always think about. One of the sayings I always rattles around in my head is, do you want to be right or do you want to win? And so I want to win. And if winning means like taking something to the extreme, then that's what you're just going to have to do. Yeah. You have to be really honest with yourself. Yeah. Same thing with like, I mean, it's just like, do you need to hold yourself accountable? Like, I don't know. I have a friend who... he would just like, he was like a gambler or whatever. And so he just started sharing his location with his whole family and his wife and everybody. Wow. So they could see where he was at all times. Yeah. And it's like, oh, well, you shouldn't have to do that. That's stupid. And it's like, no, whatever it takes to win. Yeah. We're trying to win here.
Right, because I love that too, right? Because people might say, well, what am I going to do? Get rid of my phone or like get covenant eyes? Like how lame is that? You're like, no, you know what's lame? Yeah. Masturbating to your phone in your parents' basement or something. Like, that's what's lame.
I do know people who are like, it's so unhealthy to let your girlfriend in your phone. And I may think there is a part of that. I don't want to go through...
Your girlfriend doesn't want to be your mother, right?
Yeah,
like,
I don't want to...
unhealthy to have her take that role.
Exactly. I can see that. At the same time, like, if you're struggling and she's the person you trust and love, or your wife or whoever, maybe you do need to... have her be like, she knows the code to your phone and she can go in it anytime she wants. Yeah. You know, do you want to win or do you want to be right? So there's a certain amount of that where you're like, you just got to do whatever it takes.
Yeah, that's a good question. Am I willing to do whatever it takes?
Yeah. I think people don't problem solve. I think that they limit themselves on purpose. Your problem solving abilities are limited in scope always for all problems. People do that where they're like, well, I'm out of options. It's like, no, you're not. You're just not being creative or you're not being extreme enough. Yeah. Which is like a weird sentence to say, but like sometimes you got to get more extreme. Sometimes you got to be like, I can't do this. I have to get rid of my smartphone for a month. Yeah. You know, or whatever.
Well, the other thing is, I don't know if you've heard of this. It's called a sobriety plan. And this is something I recommend to fellas who are trying to overcome pornography. Think of 3 concentric circles. Mm-hmm. The inner circle constitutes all the ways you might fall sexually. Yeah. The second layer represents those activities that when I engage in them, I almost always end up in the interior circle. And that might be having more than one drink. That might be doom scrolling social media, right? Also, whatever they are, they're particular to you. Now, the outer ring is what we often don't think about. And that is, what are those healthy behaviors that when I engage in them, I'm actually just doing a lot better. And so I'm less susceptible to that second round, which makes me less susceptible to the interior. That's hard to do without graphics. But you know what I mean?
A good... Yeah, no, that's amazing. And that's like how you overcome anything.
Because often what happens is when partners talk to each other, it's like, did you fall? No. Good for you. Did you? Yes. I'm sorry. I'll pray for you.
Yeah.
But instead, what if you were like, all right, this outer circle, you said you want to be working out 3 times a week. Are you doing that?
Yeah.
You said you're not going to watch more than one show at a time. Are you doing that? You said you're going to eat well. Are you doing that? Because if I wake up and I pray and I do my morning routine and I'm just in a better place, I'm a lot less susceptible to behaviors that lead to sin.
I think that sin is interesting because when we have problems like there are problems we have, I'm too big. I can attack that by working out. I can see I'm like in direct opposition to it. But with a lot of sin, there's no direct opposition. So, but you need to be proactive in order to overcome problems. So what you just said is so amazing because that really is like, I need to be proactive. That's why making your bed in the morning, even though it has nothing to do with anything, and technically you don't need to do it. And if you're like a single man, it's like, why? What? Why would I do that? But it is, you're attacking problems that have nothing to do with the bed by doing something positive first thing in the morning. Like, so we have so many problems that you can't be proactive to attack. So you just need to be proactive in your life.
I love this.
So just working out 3 days a week, it's like, you're fighting your porn addiction by being better.
Right, because if you're tempted to impurity, what are you going to do? Go out and do something pure?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
in a way, you can fight pride head on. Like if I feel tempted to pride, I can actually embarrass myself and in fact do that quite a bit. But I could intentionally do that. Or if I'm tempted to greed, I could give some of my money away. But when it comes to sexual impurity, what am I going to do?
Exactly.
Go out and have a pure thought?
And like you don't have pure thoughts.
You can't really go against it.
Yeah, it reminds me of anxiety. I've been having really bad anxiety lately, dealing with like relationships and stuff. And how do you combat anxiety? Because you can't think about it.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing you can do. I'm caught in a negative loop where I'm imagining the negative scenario over and over and over again. So I can't concentrate on it to fight it. There's no amount of grappling with the situation. I cannot win. So to be proactive and fight the anxiety, I have to redirect myself, which is so difficult. And you almost always need to do it before the anxiety begins. So like we just have problems where to be proactive and to fight them is to do something that feels like it has nothing to do with them over here. Yeah. You're almost like, it's like, how do we beat the German tank? Well, what if we don't even try to fight the tanks, but we try to like make it so their steel reserves are less, which is like a real strategy we did. You know what I mean?
Cool.
And so you're like, you're destroying the war machine before it even gets to you. Is the idea.
I love this.
Yeah.
Because I've thought of these things, but I love how you're articulating it. It's really, really insightful.
Yeah. So why even fight the tanks? Let's just stop them from getting steel to make the tanks in the first place. Yeah. And that's sort of the problem with like so many sins. I feel like that's kind of the case with ego sometimes. Because you can humiliate yourself or do other things
with ego.
Sorry, ego, the sin of ego is like, that's a bad one. I think it's the root of so many other sins. Yeah. Maybe the worst one.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the one. I think that that's the sin of the fallen angels, personally.
Yeah.
Or pride and ego. So,
and if you're out there going like, no, I think I've got that one buttoned up. That's probably a good sign.
No, I feel like that one's the root. That one exists in all the other sins in some way or another.
I want to have my way.
I don't think lustfulness really exists in pride the way pride exists in lustfulness.
Yeah.
Gluttony doesn't exist in pride the way pride exists in gluttony. So I think pride is sort of like the father of sins.
Yeah, I was chatting with someone recently who said that God is a communion of life-giving love. We are destined to share in that exchange. And so Christianity is about bringing us into communion with God and with each other, whereas sin does the opposite. Sin and the demons seek to isolate us, sift us as wheat, as Christ said to Peter. And when you look at the capital sins, they seem to do that. They seem to take us out of communion. Lust does that. Like it's about me. It's about my pleasure at your expense. Pride is obvious. Gluttony, I'm turning in on this thing away from community. It's interesting.
Truly.
Sin isolates. And I think virtue unites us.
If you want to know what the opposite of the Christian life or how to fail as a Christian, all you have to do is like, what's the satanic motto? Do as thou wilt is the whole of the law.
Wow.
You're like, oh yeah, pride. Just turning inward.
It's the opposite of fiat voluntas tua. Thy will,
Yeah.
thy will be done. Yeah.
So it's that's the interesting one for me, where I'm like, okay, I got to really keep this in check, because any issues you have, or jealousies, or it's all, there's something to do with your ego in there.
So what do you do to deplete the steel reserves of your sins then? Like, I mean, apart from, you said making your bed, you said muting things. Like, that's really good, because as you say, like, what if we take away their steel before they get to us? That's what you're doing by not engaging sexualized content. Because you engage like 10, 50, 100 sexualized images a day. It's almost like soft advertising.
Yes.
You don't even know why you want this thing, but it's been advertised to you all day, and all of a sudden it's created this desire within you for that thing. Softcore porn and sexualized content's like that. So by shutting that off, I'm like you say, but what else?
It feels like
what else?
it's doing nothing negative to you until you get rid of it and you go, oh, wow, that is different. Like yeah.
So what? I mean, you don't have to get specific about
doing?
Personal things. It doesn't have to be about sexual stuff either. But just how else do you try to deplete the steel? Is that how you put it?
Deplete their steel reserves. Don't even let them build the tanks. That's the idea. We're not even going to let them build them. We're going to stop them in the manufacturing process. We don't even want to fight them. And so to do that, I mean, it just depends on the sin for sure. But a lot of it really is simple stuff: making the bed, working out every day, being proud of my body, taking care of myself. A lot of it is trying to lie less. You just like tell stupid small lies, or like, I don't know. I don't even know how to, because it's hard to even think of them. But that kind of stuff like wears on you, and I think builds up into bigger things. So I try not to like, does this look good? No, I don't like it. Trying to or even just speaking in a more diplomatic way, but not lying. There's so many times where I lie for convenience sake. Is it okay if we go here? Yeah, I don't care. Yeah. I did care.
That's Peterson's point. Say the truth. And if you can't do that, at least don't lie.
Totally. And so small things like that, I've been trying to do more. A lot of the muting and like trying to just like remove myself from those situations. But a lot of it really is just like my physical body, What
do you mean?
Like, I'm trying to be more like Plato. Was it Plato who's broad shoulders? Which philosopher's name means? I think it might be Plato. But I'm just trying to get, like, when your physical body is right, I feel like you can align everything so much easier. So for me personally, just going and working hard and getting my body in a way that I'm proud of myself and I feel like I can take care of those around me frees up my brain to be clear and make better decisions. Yeah. Like, I feel stronger in general. Like, what are you training for? I don't know. I'm training to be moral and virtuous. You know what I mean? Like, there is something about that makes you feel, when I'm strong, I feel better able to be virtuous. Yeah. Maybe when I can feel my own physical strength, it gives me strength in other areas of my life. I also feel the same way about prayer and like my spiritual life. Like, if I'm going to adoration more often and I'm being very prayerful and stuff, I do feel like stronger in the gym too.
Interesting.
Like, I don't know. It does, like, the one affects the other for me for sure.
I like how Christopher West put it. If I cannot say no to that next slice of pizza, how will I say no to pornography?
Yeah.
So like pornography, all things being equal, like, is much more pleasurable than the pizza. So by denying myself these little things, I'm strengthening my will to say no to greater things.
For sure. I think the strengthening of the will is also deeply involved in your physical body.
Yeah.
The will, and it's also a perishable skill. David Goggins talks about that all the time, where he's like, you can be the toughest person on earth, and if you let yourself slip, you can reverse that. It's not a permanent thing. It's not a permanent character trait in most of us. So you have to nurture it. It's the same thing. Like, you could see someone who's so sure of themselves spiritually, who lives a very virtuous and good life, fall away.
Yeah.
And it's not that nothing they did was real. It's just so easy to sort of let ourselves forget. We're so transient in how that works. I mean, there are people who experience miracles that then go through spiritual desolation. It doesn't seem like it should be possible, right? Like, and so...
Well, I mean, Teresa of Avila talks about this in Tyria Castle, that those who are, like, at the final mansion can still end up in hell.
Yeah.
So you make all this progress, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So
What advice do you have to young men who feel embarrassed that they don't work out and feel more embarrassed that they don't know how to work out, and they're afraid about going to the gym, they're afraid about how their body looks? Like, what kind of advice would you give them?
That's a really common question I get also. And I think it's because I live my life in such a way that I'm very authentic, and I maybe don't act or look like the typical guy who goes to the gym or shoots guns or wants to ride bulls or go to church even.
Okay, yeah.
And so people are like, what are you doing? And how did you get over how weird you are? Which is like the subtext of what they say. It's like when someone asks me what I do for a living, a stranger goes, what do you do for a job? And the subtext is, you're really weird. How do you live in society? You know, that question always makes me laugh. For guys who are worried about it, I mean, no one in the gym cares. No one in the gym cares. I'm telling you, no one is looking at you. No one is thinking about you. No one cares about you.
Unless you're in their way.
Unless you're, and even then, they're just like, get out of my way. And they're never going to give you a second thought. Trust me, when I'm at the gym, the last thing I'm thinking about is how strong anyone else is near. In fact, if I'm focused on how strong someone is, it's because they're stronger than me, and I want to be as strong as them. I could care less about you down here. And in fact, if you asked me for help, I would happily give it to you. I've never met a guy at the gym who's like, oh, this guy who's here all the time can't bench as much as me. Like, that's never a conversation I've ever heard of, even in the most private group of male friends where we're all encouraging each other to be as insane and vile as possible, which is very fun sometimes. I've never had a conversation where someone was like, yeah, these newbies at the gym are these weak guys. Like, it's always like, get after it. Hell yeah. You know, and so
I honestly, I think that's because the better you are at something, the more you're aware of how much better others are than you.
Yes.
There is a humility that comes from beginning to be excellent at something.
It's
you
like,
realize how far you've got to go.
Really good martial artists are much less likely to fight than some guy.
Yeah.
And so I would say that no one cares. And also, working out doesn't have to be the gym. Yeah. What do you want to do? Just get out and move.
Go on a hike.
Yeah. Do you not like the gym? Okay, get into running. Do you not like running? Get into swimming. Do you not like that? Get into biking. Do you just like tennis? Well, then get way into tennis. Go find an adult league and start playing. Are you only into softball? Go find an adult, like, whatever your thing is, just go after it and move your body. Do you just think push-ups are fun? Do 1,000 a day. I don't know. Like, there's no rules. This goes back to me where I was saying people don't problem solve correctly. They say to themselves, I need to be in shape. I don't like the gym. And then that's the end. What do you mean you don't like the gym? So problem solve. I'm not saying you have to problem solve going, but do something else. Build the gym at home. Go run it. Like, do burpees. Guys in prison who are in solitary confinement are jacked. What are you doing? Do whatever it takes. Like, and enjoy yourself. You don't have to make it miserable. Like, just do whatever. Go to dance class for all I care. Just figure it out, you know? Is Zumba your deal? I think it sucks, but you might think it's awesome, and there's something authentic and cool about that.
Yeah, because even just doing something is so much cooler than doing nothing.
100%.
Like, if all you did is, I'm going to wake up in the morning and I go for a big walk around the block and then do 20 push-ups, that's terrifically better than doing nothing. Because you're afraid of not being as good as you could be.
Truly.
Yeah.
I think that especially to adults or people who are crossing over into adulthood are so deeply worried about being embarrassed and not being good. If you don't get good at something as a kid, I feel like a lot of adults will languish through life never trying to be good at anything ever again.
I think I don't know about women, but that's definitely true of men.
Definitely.
I think a lot of us men do not put ourselves in places where we think we'll be exposed.
Exactly.
So even if a man's really great at the gym, if he's not good at chess, he'll go nowhere near a chessboard because he will not be exposed.
Or
vice versa. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel that when I started comedy, I was not inviting my friends and my family to my shows for like 2 years. Deeply afraid of them even seeing that I was performing. And so I just didn't want to be caught out. Do you know what I mean? We're so deeply afraid of that. And so getting over that is how I got over that really early in life, very luckily, with some few exceptions. And because of that, I have a gazillion hobbies. Because I've been, as an adult, willing to be embarrassed. Yeah, I'll take singing lessons as an adult. Yeah, I'll start surfing as an adult. Yeah, I'll just go play like rugby as an adult. I'll learn how to play cricket. Let's do it, you know? And so I have all these hobbies and all these things I do that I really love. And I feel like people are missing out because they're afraid to be embarrassed. Like, don't be afraid to be embarrassed. Just go out and get it.
So I've been watching a couple of Joe Rogan episodes lately, and he keeps saying this thing. He says it over and over and over again, but I think there's some real brilliance to it. He says the hardest thing you do is the hardest thing you'll do. In other words, if the hardest thing you do is parallel park, then that's going to be the hardest thing. But if you woke up and did a cold plunge, then the parallel parking might not be so difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a great thing. Yeah. That's like the military, the only easy day was yesterday.
Okay.
Like, today is hard. It's always hard. The easy day was yesterday.
Yeah.
It's sort of just like get into the mindset. Just accept it and like crush into that. Like lock in and do it. I love that. So
how important is it when you say these men might ask you about this or reach out to you? Did they have some kind of routine at the gym? Do you ever...
That's important.
Yeah.
I think that if you're going to go to the gym specifically, like if you're a person who's like, oh, I'm just going to go running or whatever, you do need a schedule, but it's like a little easier. The gym does have a skill component and it can be complex and it depends on your goals. Like if you just want to build muscle, then just go find Jim Stepani's A Shortcut to Size and just do it. You know, they're like workout programs. If you just Google it, you can find like a 5x5 workout You also have to decide what you want from the gym. Do you want to squat the most weight? Because a bodybuilding program isn't going to give you that.
Yeah.
But like if you just want to get in there and just grow and feel strong, just like go watch Sam Sulek videos. You don't know who that is. He's a very jacked Zoomer kid that makes wholesome content. But he's, you know, just go Google bodybuilding split and just do it and commit to it. Like you don't have to overthink. People also overthink everything. They're
start light. Please start light.
Yeah.
Start if you've never done any of this stuff before, start lighter than you think you need.
Don't go crazy, and don't overthink it and don't try to over optimize it. Everyone is over optimizing everything.
What does that mean?
Like everyone is like I remember when everyone was obsessed with sleep for a while and fitness. Yeah.
For a while. Back in 2023 for 2 months.
Yeah. Everyone was like, if you don't sleep 9 hours a day, your testosterone. It's like, dude, no one. Who did I see in a podcast recently? They're like, no one who's successful had a good sleep schedule. And that's so true. Like no one who's anywhere near successful ever got good sleep. Like don't worry. You're worried about the wrong things. Like if I don't take my creatine every day, I won't be jacked. If I don't take my vitamins, if I don't eat correctly and perfectly, like stop.
Yeah.
You know, just do it. Just get out there and do it to the best of your ability and get out. It's like I went to the gym and it was too full, so the bench was taken. Find a machine that's close enough or like whatever. Or like, oh, well, maybe today's not biceps, maybe today's shoulders. Like you're not problem solving correctly.
Who is that?
That's Sam Sulek. That's that kid I was telling you about.
He looks like a love heart.
Yeah, he's jacked. He's so strong and cool. Shout out Sam Sulek. Please get in touch with me, buddy. Anyway,
I love that you said he creates wholesome content. What do you mean by that?
Well, he makes these videos. He makes these videos where he just basically takes you to the gym with him and in a video and he just talks to you while he works out. And it's incredibly simple content. It's not overproduced. It's clearly made by him with a camera. And he just talks to you and he motivates you and he says nice things. And I've been watching like every video he's made recently. So I don't know. Who knows? Maybe he's gone off the deep end. But yeah. I do think he's just like this sweetheart buff dude who's like, go to the gym, better yourself, do your cardio. Awesome guy.
I like what you said about like... what did you say? Optimal? How did you phrase that?
People are obsessed with optimization.
So I've said this 1,000 times. My wife's been doing carnivore for 7 months now. She feels great. She keeps reminding me I'm not doing this to be cool. I just have to do it or else my body breaks down.
Yeah.
I did it with her for the month of January. I felt great.
Yeah.
But I wanted beer. I'd rather be not optimal and be able to drink beer occasionally or have bread occasionally. So I like that. Like, yeah, no, that is, yes, you're right. I did feel as good as I've ever felt.
Yeah.
I'm choosing not to do that, and I'm glad I'm choosing not to do that.
Do you want to be right or do you want to win?
Yeah.
Being right might be eating carnivore all the time for you,
Yeah.
but winning what is winning? Winning is when I can stick to it, when I can be as good as I can and happy.
Yeah.
So maybe winning for you isn't carnivore all the time.
Exactly, no way.
And so that's where I'm at too, where I'm like, if I can't maintain the schedule, what's the point? You know, so if you can't maintain your fitness, if you set fitness goals and you begin them and you're having a lot of fun, but be honest with yourself, can you maintain this forever? Find a way to maintain it. 3 days a week. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
Get in there. Or some days, maybe you only got 2 days that week. You know what? Don't quit. This is the thing too, that being Catholic, when I began to discern being Catholic, I was like, oh, I get it. Because I would see Christians do bad things. And I would be like, well, you're a bad Christian. You're not a Christian. Why are you acting like this? A Christian shouldn't act like this. I didn't realize that no matter how far you fall into sin, you're not supposed to give up. Like, you don't have to beat the devil. You have to outlast him. You know what I mean? Like, you don't got to beat him. You just got to outlast him. And so it's like, you never give up. Even if you're existing in mortal sin, help others to resist. Like, keep it moving, you know? Like, just because you're in mortal sin doesn't mean you should give up.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you shouldn't tell others not to give up or encourage others to be virtuous. Like, you still need to be fighting. Even if you're like, it's the surrender. I think there's a priest who gave a talk, and I'm like basically paraphrasing what he said, but I think about it all the time. And that's the same thing with like fitness or any other goal. It's like, just because you're failing now doesn't mean don't just give up. Like, resist. What are you doing? Like, absolutely keep resisting. Because the reward is consistency will pay out. It's like playing poker for a living. You're not winning big hands and making all your money. You're winning a little bit at a time. And over time, that builds. Like, professional poker players are playing a long game. And that's like what we should be doing with like a lot of our goals and things. We're playing the long game. Just because you begin to fail, just because you only got to the gym once this week, just because you had 2 days where you had milkshakes and you feel like you're a fat lard, doesn't mean you give up. Like, you keep pushing through.
I want to tell you about Hallow, which is the #1 downloaded prayer app in the world. It's outstanding. Hallow.com/MattFradd. Sign up over there right now and you will get the first 3 months for free. That's like a lot of time. You can decide whether it's useful to you or not, whether it's helpful. If you don't like it, you can always quit. Hallow.com/MattFradd. I use it. My family uses it. It's fantastic. There are over 10,000 audio guided prayers, meditations, and music, including my lo-fi. Hallow has been downloaded over 15 million times in 150 different countries. It helps you pray, helps you meditate, helps you sleep better. It helps you build a daily routine and a habit of prayer. There's honestly so much excellent stuff on this app that it's difficult to get through it all. Just go check it out. Hallow.com/MattFradd. The link is in the description below. It even has an entire section for kids. So if you're a parent, you could play little Bible stories to them at night. It'll help them pray. Fantastic. Hallow.com/MattFradd. I want to tell you about a course that I have created for men to overcome pornography. It is called strive21.com/Matt. You go there right now, or if you text STRIVE to 66866, we'll send you the link. It's 100% free, and it's a course I've created to help men, to give them the tools to overcome pornography. Usually men know that porn is wrong. They don't need me or you to convince them that it's wrong. What they need is a battle plan to get out. And so I've distilled all that I've learned over the last 15 or so years as I've been talking and writing on this topic into this one course. Think of it as if you and I could have a coffee over the next 21 days and I would kind of guide you along this journey. That's basically what this is. It's incredibly well produced. We had a whole camera crew come and film this. And I think it'll be a real help to you. And it's also not an isolated course that you go through on your own, because literally tens of thousands of men have now gone through this course. And as you go through the different videos, there's comments from men all around the world encouraging each other, offering to be each other's accountability partners and things like that. Strive21, that's strive21.com/Matt, or as I say, text STRIVE to 66866 to get started today. You won't regret it.
And we're back.
So you've been getting requests to do Catholic events? Or?
Yeah. It's been awesome. I've been saying yes to quite a bit of them, so we'll see how they go.
Where are you going? Where's something exciting?
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say some of them, but I'll be doing like a really big conference in Arizona. I'll be performing for bishops. We'll say that. I think I'll be performing for more than one bishop.
They got to get you for Seek. If they haven't asked you yet, you don't have to admit if they have. They really need to get you to
They
Seek.
haven't. I've been contacted by no one. Someone get at me. I would love to talk about my conversion.
Yeah, because they had, well, I mean, also just to do like a show.
Yeah,
they had Jim
I would love to do
Gaffigan
both.
do something.
I
Yeah.
would love to do a show and like do a talk and just like, which I've been asked to do from other people, and I'm so looking forward to, because I've spoken at universities before.
Yeah.
But usually I'm speaking about like my previous life of crime and things. I'm talking about the links between like American crime and poverty, or just like what it means to be a man in lower class society, stuff like that. But I would much rather talk about God and my experiences. And
well, we definitely have people from Focus
like
watching the show. So there you go. You've been told.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'm absolutely
reach out.
down.
How do they reach out? Do you have a website?
I have no idea. My email, my website. There's a website.
There's a website?
I need to get someone else to run it right now. The guy who ran it is gone. I don't know.
I guess Instagram. What do you check that they could reach out
I check
to?
Instagram. I try. It can be tough. But yeah, my email, ShayneSmith@gmail.com.
That just happened. Get ready.
Yeah, good point. It is public, though. If you go on my website, you can see it. So
I've shared
I'm not
this
super
before. I
worried
had
about
Christopher West on, and we were talking about vasectomies.
Yeah.
And he said, listen, if anyone out there has had a vasectomy, write to me. We'll find the funds to get a reversal if you want to get a reversal. Here's the email. And as he said, I'm like, dude, that's a great, you're going to get way more. They incurred over $100,000 in debt from the people that reached out to get a vasectomy reversal.
No way. Well, good for them, though.
Yeah.
They went for it. They helped.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Woof.
Yeah. TOB Institute. God bless them.
Well, just so you know, if you email me, I can do nothing about your vasectomy. I got zero help for you, dog.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that happened to you. I wish you all the best. Do not message me about your testicles. I cannot help you. But what I can speak at your conference, and I will if you ask.
It's going to be funny if they start getting these mixed up. Christopher West starts getting asked to do comedy. People are writing you about their testicles. You have a special coming out this year, right? A new one?
Well, I'll be filming one. It'll come out next year. I would like to. I have like this like groups of material, and so I'm gonna film another Dry Bar, and I love Dry Bar. They've been so kind to me, and I've been working with them more this year doing other behind the scenes stuff, and so they've been so awesome, and I'm gonna film one with them, but I would like to release one this year personally. And so we'll see how that goes. I'm gonna write some stuff and maybe do like a half an hour. Maybe we could talk about that later. That could be a good time. But yeah, I would like to release something this year, but I'm also gonna record something that will be released probably next year. So
what work goes into putting together this?
an incredible amount of work. I mean, you have to
tell me about
write, first you have to write an hour of jokes to tour with, which is like an hour of talking with no one else interrupting you, and it has to be funny. You know, you want to laugh a minute at least.
Is that right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I do. I know a lot of comics who are not getting that, but so I'm sure you're trying to write the funniest thing possible, and then you want it to be true to yourself and relatable and interesting, but it's like kind of difficult to just write an hour worth of funny stuff, and then you begin to do it, but now you wrote it, but you don't know if it's good, and you need to practice it. Yeah. Comedy is like if you were learning an instrument, you only got to practice in front of people.
God, this is why you're such a good comedian. That's the word. I know you said comic. Yeah, you're such a good comedian. The way your brain works is very philosophical. Like even just today, you've said a few things off the top of your head. Like the first thing about like taking the steel reserves. You said something else.
Oh yeah.
Like the way you express things. It's like in a way that I've never expressed it, but I know exactly what you mean, and that the way you said it like sheds new light on the experience that I've felt, but haven't known how to do with it. So that's a compliment.
Thank you.
It was a garbled compliment.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I have received it.
Such a great analogy. Like, yeah, so here's the guitar. The only time you can practice it is in front of a group of critical people.
Exactly, yeah. And so now you've written it, and so when you get to my level, and this is maybe prideful, but it's also just factual. I write things, and a lot of the time it's just good. I wrote it and I know that it works. I know how people are going to react to it, and it kind of just goes as I think it would. But obviously that's not how it goes all the time. And so there are a lot of things you write where you go, that did not go how I thought. And now I have to rewrite it or add things. And now you're performing it live constantly, and you have to be listening back to it. You have to be tweaking it. You have to be like, well, this gets laughs half the time. Why? And then you have to figure out the why, and you need to change that so that it's getting laughs 100% or at least 80% of, and there's timing and all this stuff. And so to make a comedy special, a lot of comics take 2, 3, 4 years working on that material. And I have like this deep anxiety of reperforming too much material. So every year I write close to a new hour that I'm touring with. So if someone comes and sees me from one year to the next, they'll see a different act, I hope, for the most part. Sometimes it's not all different, but it's as different as I can make it in reasonable time. And so I'm always writing. So to like write this dry bar that I'm writing, like a lot of the material I'm touring on, I'm working on, and then I have to organize it in a certain way. And then I have to make sure it's not too long, but not too short. And I don't take out this part, but maybe I have to take out, and it really is like a whole process. And so to start from scratch is like quite a lot. And it is what it is, though. It's the name of the game.
I would think that part of when you're on fire, on stage is it's coming naturally. It is planned out, but it's also coming out sort of free flow, and you can adjust to things. But then what is it like when you've written a special and it's being recorded, and in a way, like, how do you do it's coming out freely, but you also want to make it perfect, and it can never, if maybe to try to make it perfect is to ruin it.
Perfection is the enemy of progress.
Yeah.
So I don't try to make anything perfect. I just try to make it as good as I can in that moment. And I think every moment is just a new chance to make it as good as it could be in that moment. I also think comedy is very contextual. It's like, art, where you see art can affect how good art is. Imagine if you were like just walking in, you found like an abandoned castle, and you were in the castle and you were just walking through, and there's like vines everywhere, and it's old and it's kind of scary, and like the sun's shining through, and you walk into this room and you're like, what a wild experience. And you look onto the wall, and the peasant's hands are on that wall.
The peasant's hands.
Have you ever seen the painting, The Peasant's Hands?
Yes.
You might just start weeping. Like that would be, you would just be like, oh my God, like what is happening here? This is beautiful. Like,
as opposed to seeing it framed in a cluttered antique store.
As opposed to seeing it on Instagram.
Yeah, with that.
You know what I mean? Like you're kind of like, and you wouldn't even know that this is such a beautiful thing, or just seeing it in a museum, as compared to something else. If I saw the Mona Lisa at a thrift store, I'd be like, okay. But when I see her in the museum and I understand how she got there and what she means and stuff, it's moving. And so I think comedy's like that, where it's like, yeah, maybe in this club today with what I said, that's so funny, but it'll never be that funny again. And I shouldn't chase that dragon. I should accept things are how they are in the context of where they are. Being a good comedian is, where am I right now? Yeah. And how do I make this as funny as I can?
So you try to have the kind of experience of doing a stand-up routine when it's being filmed essentially the same as when it isn't.
Yes. Yeah. So I kind of go, this is how this room is going, and this is how I'm going to perform. I will say that I have like this analytical brain sometimes where I'm like, this joke is for the internet. I think it'll be funnier to watch on the internet or in the special than it will be live. And sometimes I'm right about that. And that's been interesting, where I've been like, I've taken a bit out and added one in that I was like, well, this is for the internet. This isn't for live.
Yeah.
So there was like, on my last special I did about the karate stuff. In the very beginning, I did a small amount of comedy just about who I am and where I've come from. And, a lot of my act right now is autobiographical, and I was doing a whole hour about how I grew up as a child, and I just plucked out a couple things that I just thought would be relatable to people, that would be good clips, and I put them before like a 27-minute story. And so those parts flowed into the story and it made it all seem like it was one thing.
Okay.
But I picked those out specifically to be clipped.
Yeah.
So I was being sort of like a robot in that sense, where I was like, this is my strategy. This is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
This isn't necessarily the best thing for the live performance or makes sense for the story, but this is the best thing for the content that people are going to get to consume. So I'm thinking about all that stuff when I perform.
I may have asked you this last time, and if I did, no need to answer it, but when's the last time or the first time you bombed?
Oh, so yeah, the first time I bombed was, I talked about that, but the last time I bombed, oh man. Oh, I bombed on Valentine's Day.
Okay.
I bombed on Valentine's Day. I
made fun of a single middle-aged woman, and I should not have.
I did a Valentine's Day was it an open mic? It wasn't an open, or it was an open mic. It was sort of an open mic. It was like they were doing like a shotgun style thing where every comic was getting like 5 minutes, and there was like 20 of us. And I showed up to the comedy club, and I bought every waitress at the comedy club flowers. And I brought all the waitresses flowers. It was like it was Ash Wednesday.
That's super sweet of you.
Yeah, well, whatever. I was trying to get a particular one flowers, and so everyone got flowers. And so I got everybody flowers. I did want everyone to get flowers. And so I got every female staff at the comedy club, I brought flowers. Nice. And so
did you just walk in with a giant bunch of flowers and start handing them
like
out?
like a bunch of bundles of dozen roses, and I was just like, here's a dozen roses.
And
for
you knew how many women were there ahead of time?
I called ahead of time and asked someone.
Very cool.
And they told me, and I went to like the grocery store and just bought all the roses they had left that day and just brought them all. Yeah. So I thought that was fun. So I did that just to be nice, because I thought, well, they're working on Valentine's Day and they're sweet. And so then they were like, do you want to do the show? And I wasn't prepared. I'm making excuses for myself immediately. And I went up and I was like, I don't want to do material. I don't know what even have 5 minutes of material to do. And I was like, I'm going to riff. And so I was telling the story of St. Valentine, and I was kind of like being a little crude while I was doing it, but like trying to have fun. And like no one was into it at all. They were so not into it. And I got like 2 laughs, but I bombed for a couple minutes, and I was like, all right, well, I'm out of here, everybody. And I just peaced out. But I bombed pretty good, and I thought that was very funny.
Yeah, well, maybe did you think it was funny 5 minutes after?
Yeah, I thought it was funny after. I don't take it personally, especially because I was riffing.
That's right. If you would have put all this work into it and everyone's just
if I bombed material, I'd be like, uh-oh.
I need to reevaluate my
what
life
just
choices. Happened?
But I do often take big risks, and sometimes they don't pay off. I've been very fortunate that they've paid off a lot. Oh, thank you. And so, but I've had a few times where they've not paid off, and that was one of them. So yeah, I bombed on Valentine's Day, trying to tell the story of St. Valentine.
I mean, I brought up Seinfeld a couple of times now just because he's been all over the internet doing promotion for Unfrosted, that new movie he put out. Did you watch it?
It was bad.
You didn't like it?
I didn't like it.
Why didn't you like it?
I don't know. I just thought it was boring. Maybe I was in a bad mood or something.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, isn't it? Sometimes.
I thought some of it was funny.
It was incredibly fast-paced.
It was absurd, and I loved a lot of the absurdity.
Yeah.
There were a few jokes that got me. I just thought, like, what are we doing? This is a weird... But Seinfeld loves to do that. Remember B-Movie?
Yeah.
What?
But he didn't write that, right? Or direct it.
I don't know. Did he write and direct Unfrosted?
Yeah, I think he directed it.
I don't even think I finished it.
Yeah. I watched it with my wife the other day in Amsterdam.
Whoa! Here we go.
It was good. Yeah, I liked it. It was fun. It was, isn't that brutal to say? Someone puts years of work.
Oh, yeah.
Hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, and you go, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It has every famous person you can imagine in it. It's okay.
What do you think? What kind of deal must he have with Netflix to do 8 million interviews? He did write the B movie. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. That's nice to know.
You were right.
It's so weird. He's a weird guy, but I mean, that's part of his charm.
Yeah, but I just think
the deal he has at Netflix, it's like, what's the deal Adam Sandler has at Netflix?
I don't know.
I don't know either, but those movies are weird, and he's making $1 gazillion. Adam, put me in one of your movies.
Yeah, I like that you assume he's watching Pints with Aquinas.
So I've come here to tell the most Jewish man alive, just hanging out watching Pints. No, I don't know, but I don't know what Netflix is up to.
I just mean
they do pour money into like.
I just mean, what kind of agreement do you have? Because presumably he has to be financially incentivized to do 8 million interviews. I don't know if you've noticed this, but just over the last 3 or 4 weeks, he has been doing show after show after show.
Yeah,
he was on Bill Maher's show.
Press
it was actually
tours.
quite nice.
Yeah, they just try. Your agent just tries to get you everywhere, anywhere you can.
But I'm thinking there's got to be a reason you're agreeing to this. Like Netflix has got to say, I need you to do X, Y, or Z, or this many interviews to agree to do it. Or
do you feel like this?
Because do you make more money? The more people watch it, maybe that's it, and that's the incentive.
I don't know. I think I just think you're obligated to do a press tour, but maybe.
But what does that mean?
I don't know that you make more money. Maybe it's I don't know. Here's the thing about it is I personally, and a lot of people are like, how can you be like this? But like when Chappelle does specials, I go, why? Why do you work? Go home to your family. You have all the money. Never leave your kids again. What are you doing? Like, that blows my mind. Like, you have the money. You never have to work again.
But isn't that a beautiful thing? Because he's not doing it for the money, clearly.
I guess.
He does it for the love of the...
I think that it's still money. I think that people just want more money. Do you know what I mean? So maybe he is doing it for the love, but like, if you're doing it for the love, why are you on Netflix?
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Like, I guess you might be though, because like, where else are you going to go? But I do think a lot of it is ego.
Well, if you're proud of what you do and you want a lot of people to see that, probably
true. But
because you'd take a Netflix deal right now, even if they said we'll give you $50, wouldn't you?
Yeah, because the payout, the eventual payout is so insane because of the exposure you would have.
So I know you've had some friends who've done Netflix specials, and is that what do they share with you?
Yeah, the difference in career, it just like jumpstarts your career like insane. That hasn't happened for everybody, but like if you're Nate Bargatze, you know, that's like a seminal moment for you. You do 30 minutes on Netflix, the next thing you know, you're selling out arenas.
Wow.
You know, which is like so good. Like someone like Nate deserves it, but there are other people who are like, really? But
what are some traps you've seen, and you don't have to name names, other comedians fall into as they've grown that you don't want to fall into?
I mean, the main one is becoming complacent and surrounded by yes men and only performing for your audience. And then you become unfunny without realizing it. And then you produce something like for Netflix or a wider audience, and everyone goes, you're bad now. What happened?
Interesting.
Because you never knew, because your audience pays to see you and they want to have a good time. And so then this content comes out to everyone, you know, and there are people who have made that mistake. A bunch of people have made that mistake. You know, a lot of people just fall in love with themselves and their own legend. Or they work for the sake of working, or they do things for all the wrong reasons, or they begin to do things that are inauthentic, you know, and you're like, why are you doing that? I don't know. So that's a trap I've seen a lot of comics fall into. Comics want to be rock stars. That's really what it comes down to. I have zero interest in any of that. So like me and my peers don't really get along. And I've always been kind of like removed from the industry even before I became Christian. And now it's like I'm really removed. You know, even before I was Christian, OnlyFans, like someone was like, do you want to do this OnlyFans comedy show? No. What? Why are they doing, you know, comedy? That makes no sense. Yeah. I'm not doing that.
And so, raising money for?
This is like, so I don't know. There are comedians who fall into these traps where they do stuff like that. And I just think it like murders your soul. And then over time, it just destroys the product and you just stop being funny, or you become a caricature of yourself. You know, it's that thing where Pete Holmes said, live a life worth commenting on. And I think that's so true. And a life worth commenting on is a life that is like beautiful and good. You know, like I want to comment on a life that is something that like all people can relate to. I think there's some people want to peek into what it's like to be a rock star, or travel all the time, or drink a lot, or be with a lot of women, or whatever stuff comedians are up to. But I'd rather like, I don't know, talk about my experiences like a person in the world who loves and wants to be loved and like cares about family, or like all, you know, and is trying to just live my life. And obviously I can never be working class until I become working class again. I'm removed from that, but I can get as close as I can in order to like be relatable. And I don't know. I also feel so uncomfortable with like wealth and opulence. So I don't want any. That's another thing comics do is they get money and then they start living like a very opulent life where they're living paycheck to paycheck, but they have $1 million. And you're like, what are you doing? Like, that's crazy.
Have you thought then what's the goal of your comedy? Because it sounded like at one point you were saying to me, if you make enough money, stop doing it.
Yes.
So is it just to make enough money? Because that sounds bad.
No,
my goal is just to make money so I can stop.
I definitely don't do everything I can to make enough money. I don't post enough on social media. I haven't said yes to certain jobs that would make me $1 bajillion because I don't morally agree with them. I've said no to things because of that. I've made decisions that have stopped me from getting jobs, like becoming Catholic or whatever. And so money isn't the goal for me. I'll be honest. I've lost sight of what the goal is.
That's so honest. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know anymore because when I was an open micer, it was to be a working comic. Then I became a working comic and I thought to myself, I'd like to be the most successful comic I can be. And now I don't care.
Why can't it be something like as simple as, and this can at least be part of it, just to bring joy to people?
Yeah.
I shared this with you twice now, but I'll share it for my audience. I was laying in bed with my beautiful daughter, Avila, the other day, and we were watching Brian Regan. And I'm like, isn't he good? Look, this is great. She's like, can we play Shayne Smith? Like, yeah. I mean, he's great too. Sure, I guess we can do that. But like, that's got to be very rewarding to know that there's like a 13-year-old girl hanging out with her dad wanting to watch you because you bring joy to her. That's so lovely.
That's something that I always was clean and dirty. And now, before my conversion, as I decided to be Catholic, I was like, okay, I'm just going to be clean all the time. And what happened when I did that was I realized how many families enjoy me as a group. Yeah. And I was like, oh no, that's way more special than just some guy being like, I like when you said the nasty thing, I got through my work day because of you. It's like, I can get him through his work day and you and your daughter can watch me. I think that's special. So, I mean, comedy's weird because people will message me and be like, you saved my life.
Wow.
Pretty often. And I'm like blown away by that. So I do think I'm doing something good. Yeah. And I'm doing something meaningful, but like my personal goals outside of just simply doing what my job is, I don't know. Nowadays I do my job professionally. Like firefighters don't think about being heroes. I would hope not. They just kind of are like, well, I'm a firefighter. This is what I know how to do. I don't know how to do anything else. And that's where I'm at in comedy, where I'm like, well, this is just what I do. I don't know how to do anything else. So this is just what I do. So when people are like, what's your goal? I guess I'm being honest with you, but with other people, I'd be like, I don't know, Netflix or whatever, but I really don't know. Truly, it's like not check my bank account when I eat, I guess. Like do my best. And then hopefully if I do my best, I can like buy a house for my wife one day and like have kids that get to go to Catholic school and like play sports. I don't know. Yeah. I've lost sight of it because I truly don't care about being famous. Yeah. I could care less.
How do you know that you don't care about being famous? I mean, it seems obvious. But
yeah. I mean, I think that I know I stopped caring when I just sort of, I think my priority shifted. And as soon as I started treating social media differently, I was like, oh, I don't care anymore. I just stopped posting on TikTok almost entirely. I stopped trying to like grow myself in social media in a way where you're just trying to get eyes on you. I stopped doing that. And I would only post if I actually wanted to, as if it was my personal Instagram. I just happen to have 200,000 followers. And you know what's funny is, as I began to do that, it actually started to work better. People are more receptive to that, which is so funny.
Receptive to what?
To like, it used to be that I would post every 2 days, and I would like have, sometimes I would be like, okay, the last 2 times you posted a meme and then you posted a photo of yourself with a funny caption, but you need to post a reel. We got to get a reel in there. That's how you grow. And people need to know I'm funny. And I would have to like brainstorm a reel. Now I'm just like, ate breakfast, here's my face, whatever, and like just post it. And people are like way more receptive to that. I mean, it's really funny.
I think that was the charm of Instagram in the beginning, is that you know people, what's that fellow who plays Dwight Schrute or whoever, like you know them from their shows, and then this is just like them taking photos of themselves doing random things, and you feel like you're getting to know the person. Yeah. But if that person's just posting the more public content that everyone's already watching, well, I don't have a window into your life. I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm saying I think that's the charm of Instagram in the beginning.
Yeah, I think so. And so now I used to post every 2 days. Now sometimes I don't post for 6, you know, and then I just post nothing. It's just like some memes at my face. And I'm like, you know. And so also I started posting more sincere things. Like I posted about my baptism and things. And I was really surprised for all the negative feedback I've gotten about being Christian. Like I post about my baptism. It's like one of my most liked posts ever. I got tons of congratulations from a lot of atheists too, which is really nice. I don't know. It's just been weird.
Do you ever meet comics who don't know how to turn it off?
100, almost all of them.
Yeah, because what I love about you is we could have a whole conversation. If people didn't know you, they may not know you're a comic because you're not trying to be funny every 5 seconds.
Yeah. I have no compulsion. I just sort of like want to be.
Yeah, I mean, the bit about don't send me information about your testicles was brilliant. But apart from that, it's not like...
Yeah. I'm not here trying to like, what's the funniest thing I can say about not using my phone?
Yeah, because I would imagine, you know, you go on Conan O'Brien or these big shows, you've got a certain amount of time, you've got to be really funny.
Yeah.
But then you've got these long-form chats that people like Joe Rogan and others do, where it's really nice when people can just sort of relax and just... You know, I remember watching... Rogan's interview with Brian Regan, and it's just so cool just to see Regan just chat.
Yeah,
you wouldn't know he was a comic necessarily just from...
I think the best comics, I think one thing to not forget as a comic, because I've seen comics who are so funny, funnier than me, world-endingly funny. Like I would say, like for me personally, I want one big laugh a minute, sometimes more for an hour. That's a big ask, and I'm going for it. I've seen comics crush, like total, like they're doing jokes that aren't landing because people are laughing too hard from the thing before.
Wow.
Top to bottom, killers, and no one remembers them, no one follows them, because you can be the funniest person ever, but at the end of the day, people aren't going to remember that you made them laugh. They're going to remember how you made them feel. And laughter is in the moment, but it's not a lingering feeling. It's like, I liken it to, I think comedy and horror are like one and the same. So like, what's the best scary movie? It's not the movie that during the movie you were like, ooh, and you jumped and you were like really scared during the movie, but afterwards you're like, that was a crazy movie, right? The scariest movie is the movie that maybe only scared you a little bit during, but then later on you're in your room and you go, I'm gonna run to the bed after I turn this light off right now, you know, like that's the scary movie that gets you. And so the comedy that gets you isn't the comedy that kills you in the moment, makes you laugh a lot. It's the one that makes you remember to feel good. People remember how you make them feel, not what you made them do necessarily. And so with my comedy, I always want people to remember how I made them feel.
Yeah.
And so I always think about that. I don't really know like what actions I take in order to accomplish it, but I think by just having it in my head and being conscious of it, it helps. Because people, I do feel like for some reason my comedy, which is very goofy and surreal in a lot of times, like does make people feel over the long term, which is like, that's the best. When a joke makes you laugh for years or just makes you feel good. Like I love those.
And what's random too is I'm sure it's different for everybody. But there's a few things you've said that you probably, I don't know if you realize that would be the thing.
No.
Like, so for me, it is all holds barred.
Yeah.
I love that so much. You said that so perfectly. And every time I think about that, I laugh. And I don't even know why it's funny. Yeah. I guess it's because I don't know what no holds barred means.
I
never really thought about what that might mean. So when you say it's all
holds barred. Yeah. That's a fun line. I didn't think people have like talked to me about it. Or just like, we're the Alligator Boys now.
Oh my gosh.
I thought that was kind of a corny
the world's
throwaway line.
Toddler.
Yeah. And people remember that. And I'm like, whoa. It's like there's this Office joke where they're all pretending to have guns and they're pointing at each other. And then Dwight goes, mine are crossbows. I think about that all the time. I'm always like, mine are crossbows. You know, it's so stupid. And I love jokes that linger in your life. And so how you make people feel is so much more important than making people laugh.
Yeah, I wonder what that means. I'm trying to think that through with you because it's sort of like if I liken it to food. There is a certain food that gives me immediate pleasure, but then maybe I regret it or forget about it. And then there's a food that's wholesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so in a way, like the reason people like Michael Scott is because they care for him.
Yeah.
And they see themselves in him. They see the ways that maybe they've tried to be liked and haven't been, and they've felt lonely, and they've meant well but have been misinterpreted. And there's an affection you feel for that character that it goes deeper than just a quick, cheap laugh.
It's like the difference between like how a food makes you feel and how a meal makes you feel.
Okay.
That meal has so much more, right? It's not only the food, who I shared it with, where I was, why I was there.
Yeah.
You're like, I remember that meal. But like, you could have the best ice cream in the world and you're just like, that was good ice cream. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just a food, but you want a meal. Like, I want to serve people a meal.
I love it.
You know?
Who would you most like to open for?
Oh.
So you
Metallica. I know a comic who used to open for Metallica.
Are you kidding?
Yeah. They used to have a comedian on the road with them. And I literally talked to my agent like, dude, I don't know what you have to do to get me in there, but let me open for Metallica.
How funny.
Yeah.
I saw Tenacious D open for Metallica in Dublin, Ireland.
Oh, that's wild.
But I've never seen a stand-up comic open for a band, let alone a metal band.
Yeah, people do it.
That's wild.
I know someone who opened for John Mayer. For like a while, and they pay like a lot. Well, it's because if a band opens for you, one, there's like band energy, and now you're like kind of competing with each other, yada yada yada. Yeah, but they have all this equipment. They have to be in a bus or whatever. If I'm a comic, I'll just fly in day of. Give me a microphone, I'm ready to go. You don't have to pay me nearly as much.
Yeah,
it's great.
I wonder how that would help the band too, because I could see like closing for Metallica would suck. Like Metallica energy, and then you've got to, hey guys, no matter how intense you are, you're not very Metallica intense. So I can see how opening would be a better idea.
Dude.
But it makes more sense to me that a comic would open for John Mayer, because I could see that being maybe more of an acoustic, intimate environment.
Sure. I think that if you open for Metallica, it's like arena comedy. Like, you just accept that it's going to feel weird, but like people are going to laugh, but you're not really going to feel like it's a real show. But I think it would be good. I think as long as you were killing with the pit or whatever, like the people down here, you would feel good about it.
How would that benefit the band?
That benefits the band.
As opposed to having a band to open for you.
I feel like...
Why a comic?
I feel personally like a band like Metallica, like if I come out if they're like, okay, we're going to get the show, like we're all setting up, here's a comic. Well, I come out and I kind of like do my thing, and maybe a lot of people have fun. But now the energy gets to shift, and now it's Metallica time, you know?
You kind of don't get exhausted on the music,
Yeah, exactly. And that, I think that the music preceding comedy is the worst thing that could happen.
Yeah.
Comedy preceding music is actually like a really good transition.
Interesting. I wonder if that's happening more and more. I haven't been to concerts in a long
think
time.
it is. I know someone who opened for the band Korn. I know a few other people who've opened for different bands. I would love it, though. And I would be performing for like the most people ever. I would write a joke and sneak a Hail Mary in there. Mark my words.
Okay.
It would be really funny to like Catholic it up with millions of Metallica fans.
Gosh,
but
do me a favor. When you open up for Metallica, I just want you to say, there's this friend of mine. He runs a show called Pints with Aquinas.
just plugging pints.
He could probably pay you $300 if you wanted to. It's totally up to you.
Oh man, but yeah, that would be the person I would open for. That'd be great.
What about a comic though? Who would you like to
open? Comic? I know. See, I was talking to you earlier about problem solving and how there are no rules, and I gave you the answer you weren't looking for.
I love that.
A comedian.
You're already open for Norm Macdonald. I mean, where do you go?
Yeah,
from there?
quite a bit. I would open for John Mulaney probably.
Yeah,
Mulaney or Kevin Hart. I just think it would be fun. I like both guys. I've never really interacted with either of them, and they're like comedians who I look up to a lot. So it'd just be cool to meet them and stuff. I've met so many of my heroes that I'd be like, oh, like, cool. You know, it would just be fun.
Yeah.
I think I would get along with both of them.
I think it's probably a neat thing to never trash talk another comedian as a comedian.
Yeah. Comics love to trash talk.
It's probably really difficult what you do.
So hard.
Yeah, so it's...
to not trash talk?
I don't mean that, no.
That's what I was referencing. It's so hard not to trash talk.
I just mean, what you do is difficult enough, and, comedy's different. Everyone has their different way of doing things. But I really do not like Chris Rock.
Yeah.
I just find him spastic and loud and quick, but not in a smart way, and he swears too much. I feel like he's compensating for something.
Yeah.
But if I was a comic, I would never say that on my show.
No. And I don't agree with you as a comic, but as a guy, who knows? No, I don't know. It is hard not to trash talk. There's so
And
many
why
comics.
is that? Is it because you see what you're convinced they're doing wrong and just need to express it? Or?
Yeah, I just think also it's just like when you dislike someone's style, it's like offensive to you almost because you participate in this. Do you know what I like?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen other podcasts and you're like, what are you
How they
doing?
do that? Yes.
Yeah. It just is like that.
That
also,
makes sense.
There in comedy too, especially, there's a lot of people who like live a certain lifestyle and do certain comedy, and you're like, I don't respect you as like a human, as a man. Not a human. Of course, I afford all humans the dignity they deserve. Everyone is a child of God, but like, there's a part of you that's just like, what are you doing? Like, you're not a good man. Like, this is bad. You suck, and you want to like, I don't know. It's hard not to voice that sometimes.
I think I might just be a little naive, but I would say almost every single person I've interviewed, I've liked just as much Offset as I've liked them in that chair.
Interesting.
There's maybe a couple of people that I'm not so sure, but for the absolute majority, and again, it might be just because I'm naive, but
I think it also could be the type of podcast you have and the quality of guests you invite.
yeah.
You might just be, by virtue of what you speak about and who you are, you're just interacting with people who are of that world, and you exist in a world of really kind, charitable, gracious people who are like interested in things that make them better. So even if they aren't a good person,
If they're sincerely interested in becoming better, then that's a sincerely cool
exactly.
thing. Yeah.
It's easy to like see. Also, you are speaking to people who like are asking big questions often, and people who ask big questions are usually pretty self-aware
Yeah.
and interesting.
Okay.
So you're like, whereas daily, if you're like trying to have a conversation with someone about theology, like there's something about like when you can just tell someone goes, I don't get it, and they just give up on a huge question like what the meaning of life is, and you go, what? I don't respect you anymore.
Right.
Like, what are you doing? How can you not care about this?
We won't say where we were, but you and I were watching somebody give a talk, and you said I don't like him. Maybe you didn't say that, but you said he's trying to sound like he's speaking the way he thinks a male speaker should speak, or something like that.
He's doing an impression
Okay.
of what he imagines a speaker should be.
Yeah, so
Like he was,
break that open, not just him particular, but
Yeah.
that trap we can all fall into.
Comedians do that a lot too, where they're doing an impression of a comedian on stage. And so then it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy where you're doing an impression of yourself. People pick up on that. It's inauthentic. It's weird. It feels awkward. It feels infantilizing. Have you ever just like... It's like that youth pastor, like, gather around, y'all. We're going to rap about the Lord. And then he's got the guitar and you're like, ooh, not the guitar, you know? And there's something fundamentally wrong with a guy with a guitar who wants to talk about Jesus. But you're like, this is so inauthentic, like, and weird. I just think it's that. It's that where instead of someone going, I'm going to approach this as myself, they are playing pretend. They have another speaker
that they're
trying to invoke the feeling of that time they gave that speech, instead of saying, how did I feel about that speech? How will I convey that in my own personal way?
Right.
They're
And you
just
can understand why people fall into it, because
100%.
they want to be not just liked, but effective. And they know this guy was effective, so I'm gonna mimic that. And sometimes subconsciously, I've shared this before, but my mate Chris Stefanik, when I started speaking back in 2010 or something, he said, is this yours or mine?
yours.
He said, don't try to sound like Scott Hahn. Don't try to sound like he said, go out there and be big, goofy you. I'm like,
Yeah.
I can do that.
Yeah.
But it was good that he said that, because I suppose now I was cognizant, or am I just actually being honest? Even if honest isn't as good as I'd like it to be.
Yeah. No, totally.
It's good. It's better than artificial.
Honest is always better. It's not ideal. Honest is never ideal. But it's always better. But what's ideal is what's that if you become a Knights Hospitaller or a Templar, they say always tell the truth, and then the next rule is temper the truth with mercy, because the whole truth is often too much for many. And I always thought that was so interesting, because there's this guy, AJ Jacobs, who did living the Bible literally for a year. And obviously,
yeah.
And that's a really fun, interesting book, even though he does it, he does it literally. So there's nothing spiritual happening here. It's a very comedic take,
Right.
you know, but, he does like a month where he does radical honesty and he like ruins his life basically. His wife is very unexcited. I think at one point they're in a pizzeria and him and his wife run into old friends of hers and they're like, oh, we should go on a double date, whatever. And he says right to their face, oh, we have enough friends, we won't be doing that. Because he's doing radical honesty. Hey, you can't do that. No. So I thought that was interesting. You should tell the truth always, but you should temper the truth with mercy. Yeah. That's something interesting that I think about. But
I know, to me, I think the answer is obviously, but how important is the pause in comedy? Because as a speaker, the temptation is just to be at 11 the whole time. 11, but you kind of, everyone gets fatigued by minute 3.
Right.
Whereas you see these, some people, like Jordan Peterson would be an example, but comics as well, where they'll talk and they'll pause for a while, and it's almost like the pause wakes you up, which is the opposite of what you'd think. You'd think talking louder will keep people awake, but if you just
take your time
off, it surprises people.
Yeah, you want it to be conversational for sure. There's also this weird thing where often you tell a joke and the timing of the conversation or the piece is such that you should keep going, but you need to wait for the laughter to abate. And so you sort of like do this weird like dance where you need to stop talking and allow the laughter to roll, but then continue as if the timing wasn't messed up. That's like a skill that a lot of people don't think about that is in comedy, especially if you're doing really well, and then on top of that, if you're doing really well, often the length of your set gets shorter because people are laughing longer. So you need to adjust for that, especially if you tell stories. I can't just like cut out a joke. I'm not like a traditional comic. So if I'm telling a story and I look down and I'm halfway through a 30-minute story and I only have 10 minutes left, I got to go, I have to figure this out right now. And so that gets kind of hard, but...
how much do comics talk about joke theft in the industry?
Not
Is
a
that
ton.
still happening? Like a lot? Or?
People talk about it, but not in terms of stand-up. I don't think anyone's stealing each other's stand-up, but people... Now the joke thievery has shifted over to like, oh, you took my meme, or you took my idea for like these words I posted over a blank photo. Like, I don't know. That's the kind of thing where people are mad about like online content thievery and not so much stand-up. Especially because what's popular now with people who are in the middle to lower ranges of comedy, not the professional, is crowd work. They're all trying to post crowd work reels to get famous, and you can't really steal crowd work.
I didn't realize that.
You don't need to steal crowd work. It's so boring and formulaic. It's like, what do you do for a living? Oh, you guys are dating? Oh, and like it's just like so lame. I'm surprised it does so well. People love it.
Is crowd work to comedy what reviewing like clickbaity things on YouTube is to podcasts?
100%. 100,000,000%. It's not respectable and it's easy, but it is a part of it. So you have to give it its due. But as a comic, I get exhausted by it, and then it makes me not want to do it, which is unfair because it is a part of stand-up comedy, and I should partake, and I should post those reels. Probably they would help me, and people like them. But I see people I don't respect leaning on the crutch, and I go, I hate it. And then that's an ego thing. Why am I doing that?
Who does crowd work really well, though? Is there anybody that you're like, wow, this...
Phil Hanley.
Okay.
Phil Hanley is a guy who does incredibly good crowd work, and he's been doing crowd work well since before it was popular. So he's the guy I would point to be like, this guy right here.
What makes him good at it?
He's just quick. He's interesting. He's doing it in such a way where it's like, there he is. He's a male model, by the way.
Yeah, good-looking dude.
He's a good-looking bloke, as they say. So he just does it in such a way that's like very authentic. He's clearly listening. He's quick. It's just like not surface level. Whereas a lot of people who are doing crowd work, you can feel them reaching.
Yeah.
Anything, please. And you know what it is too? Crowd work is it can get away from you very easily.
Unravel.
And if you pay attention, I'll ruin crowd work reels for everyone watching. Pay attention. Is the comedian being funny, or did the audience do something funny? Very often, the audience creates the funny situation and people laugh because of what's happening in the audience, the comedian did not facilitate that in any way outside of beginning the conversation. Phil Hanley is a good crowd work person, and so is someone like Big J. Okerson, who no one listening to this should look up because he's wildly filthy. But these guys are good at crowd work because the crowd isn't funnier than them. They are the ones saying the funny thing. Sometimes the crowd is funny. Sometimes the guy says something and everyone laughs, and that's very fun and it's a part of it. But very often when you watch a reel of a lower level comic doing crowd work, the crowd is funnier than them. They're not saying the funny thing. The crowd is funny. Anytime as a comic someone else is funnier than you, don't post that. You know what I mean? What are you doing? So that's my problem. Anytime I watch a crowd work reel, I go, the crowd was funny. When are you going to be funny?
Yeah, so, I'll take that into account from now on when I watch that, if I do.
If you do.
Yeah, I don't know if I actually didn't even know what crowd work was until you said it, but I get it. Yeah. What's interesting about stand-up comedy is, in a way, nothing's really changed as far as the equipment is concerned. Or like you have a stage and a microphone.
Yeah.
I love that.
Some comics are like, give me some props.
Yeah.
Or a musical instrument. But I am...
Well, there's a fella on Dry Bar who has slides. He jokes about himself being a nerd and wearing cargo pants.
Yeah.
He was so funny. Very good.
Slides are fun. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, especially when you tie it into you being a nerd and you're showing Venn diagrams.
Yeah. What's it? Pete Holmes has a joke that I love where he's like, I'm so stupid. Up until now, I thought it was a Sven diagram. Like it was a Viking being like, this is pillaging and this is burning and this is us right here in the middle. Like, it's a very good joke. Man, Pete killing it.
Did we bring up last time his joke about masturbation?
No.
Do you know what it is?
No.
It's so excellent. He's certainly not recommending everything he says, all yada yada.
Yeah.
But he says, if you masturbate, that's double gay. Not only are you giving a hand job to a man, you're receiving a hand job from a man.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
But the reason I love that is that goes back to what we were saying earlier about showing how pathetic these sexual sins really are.
Yeah.
And that does that well.
He does another one where he talks about like a woman trying to sleep with him. And he's like, just because I'm a man doesn't mean I want that. Like, I'm contemplating my relationship with my father. Get away from me. Like, it's very good. I got stuff going on.
Yeah, I like him. I think I would like him as a human being. He seems interesting.
He's very cool, and he grew up, I think, in evangelical, and then he kind of fell away, but kept his spirituality, which is like kind of a groaning, sort of eye-rolling thing. But he did get way into like Ram Dass and stuff, who these people are just like charlatans. I dislike that immensely. The idea of like a guru.
Okay.
That's always bad.
You have a podcast, don't you? Or do you do it for Dry Bar? I've seen you.
Oh, no, I don't have a podcast right now, but I am starting one.
Oh.
It'll be called Backyard Rodeo. It'll just be it'll be a lot of me by myself talking about history and nerdy stuff, and it'll be me interviewing people sometimes.
Nice.
But I did go on Dry Bar's podcast a couple times. It's very fun. But yeah, they have a podcast in studio. And since now I'm living in Utah, I just like pop in there sometimes.
Are they doing well? Dry Bar, are they growing?
Yeah, I think they are. I think they're doing very good. Their offices are crazy. They've got saltwater fish in there. So they're doing something right.
Yeah.
And I know that they produce a bunch of crazy shows. They produce Cabrini. They had something to do with it. I saw a bunch of signed photos. A bunch of people there asked me if I'd watched it because a lot of people who work there are LDS because it's in Utah, and so they were like, "You're
I didn't
Catholic?"
realize that Angel Studios was the same outfit. As
Angel
Dry
Studios
Bar.
and Dry Bar are the same place.
I see.
That's the exact same studio, all the same executive. It is the same place.
Yeah,
as far as
I
I'm
know
concerned.
the fellow who started Angel Studios. So maybe when I would love to come out to your special. I know I already said that.
Yeah, 100%.
I would love to do that. And I'd love to meet him.
As soon as I know when it's going to be filmed, I'll let you know, and we'll hang out. It'll be a great time.
How do you prep for? Do you need to get away from everybody and just get in the zone?
Zero prep. Anytime I do a show, I'm literally being regular, playing a video game on my phone, talking to someone, ignoring whatever, and they go, "You're up," and I just walk right onto stage.
Really?
Yeah,
and that's obviously worked for you.
Yeah,
that's not you just being lazy.
No,
it's like that's how you.
No, I just work. it's time to be professional. Let's go.
Okay.
Like there's no like weird sort of prep for me. I've always been like that. Oops. And then it's a very important text coming in, everybody. Yeah, I think it's a holdover from baseball. Because I played baseball a lot as a kid, and it was always like baseball's like a tough guy sport, or at least it was for me. And so like baseball players are like wildly stoic and stuff. So it would be like before you're about to bat, you would just be shooting it with the boys and be like, you're up. And now everything depends on you, and you would just like walk right up and do it. Yeah. So I think that I've just like, that's a hold. I always really loved that. Yeah. There's something about like the like, and now it's all up to me. Who even cares? Like, and you just get up there and duel with the pitcher, you know? I think there's something cool about that.
Do you ever meet people who have an elaborate preparation before getting on stage?
Most comics.
Really?
Yeah.
Give us the weirdest one.
Most comics. I mean, there are people who like need to be alone with a notebook and they're like reading through their whole act, but they've done it 100 times. Mm-hmm. You know, there are people who can't eat for hours before they perform, or they feel bloated. There are people who need to be a certain amount of drunk, which is very bad. You don't do that. What are you doing? Yeah, there's all kinds of weird stuff. There's people who like have to have certain clothes, who need to be like, I need to be showered and cleaned up and perfect and dressed exactly the way I want, and there early and relaxed, and the lights need to be this low. Yeah. Like they have so much.
I kind of like that.
Yeah?
I hate that I like it, but I do kind of like it.
That's interesting.
Especially if it works for them.
Yeah.
You know, if it's actually working for you and you're the person everyone's coming to see, feels like you should be catered to.
I've always been the exact opposite. Even when I was a kid, like if someone was like the flagpole after school, I would just be so normal. Mm-hmm. And then like literally walking out of the flagpole, like take my backpack off. Hey, I have to fist fight real fast, and then just get into that fight and then put my bag back on and I'm back to business, you know? Yeah. I've never been like I guess if I can't control it, why worry about it? Yeah. So I just go right on. But it's helped me a lot because being a professional comic isn't being funny. It's being funny on the worst day.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. They don't pay you to be the best. They pay you to be good no matter what.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've always, a lot comes up as a professional comic. Like my first show back on tour this year, my plane was so delayed that the show had to start like 45 minutes late. And then my plane landed. Someone was on stage going long. I had to sprint to my rental. Like I'm drenched in sweat. Get into my rental.
While someone's going long on purpose?
Yeah. I'm leaving the Tampa air. I literally drifting out of the Tampa airport in like my freaking tiny Honda or whatever. I'm on the freeway. It's slamming rain. I'm going way too fast. I'm like breaking every law you can break in Florida. I literally pulled up to the club, parked illegally, just got out of my car, soaking wet, drenched in sweat, with my bags, dropped them in the showroom, and just walked right onto stage.
Didn't even put another shirt on?
No.
How did you explain being drenched with sweat?
I just told them what happened. You know, I was like, my flight was late. I got into my car. I broke every law on the way, you know, and I just did my act. And then I think that skill is like what being a professional is, you know? Yeah. So it's just about doing it.
Yeah. Not needing to be overly coddled. In order to
exactly.
do your job.
Do you think you could, if everything was going wrong and the guest was sitting here, could you just walk in and be like, well,
that's a really good question. I guess it would depend on what it meant by everything going wrong. Like if I, had a big fight, let's say with a friend or something was going bad with my child or something like that, and I was worried about them, I think it would be difficult because I really try to create an environment where we can both be sort of open and honest. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And so it would be hard if that was on my heart to then not have that come out, you know?
I think it would come out for me on stage.
You'd actually start. Maybe.
Yeah. I think once, right before I went on stage, my mother called me and was like, hey, your grandpa's in the hospital. And I was like, this is the worst possible. I'm literally going on stage right now. My mom was like, I had no idea. I'm sorry. And when I got on stage, I just ended up doing like 15 minutes of material about my grandfather. I was just like, well, I'm still going to go up and I'm going to do the best I can, but I might as well just get this out.
So you didn't kind of share my grandfather's in the hospital.
Yeah, but I just kind of like spoke about like, I just spoke what was, just got it out, you know? So, yeah, sometimes it's tough. Like when I was getting, I was married once and I was getting divorced, and my ex-wife worked at the comedy club. So I would have to do comedy in front of her while being divorced. And she was like with other men and stuff. It was brutal. And the owner of the comedy club was like, you can't speak about her. She works here. So I had no out. I just had to so that was where I earned my acting chops. I would literally be crying. I'm not joking. I would be crying and I would be like, okay, get it together. And I would like be like clear eyes and I'd be like slapping myself on the face. And then I would go do 30 minutes open for a guy, get off stage, and I would just go to my car and I would just like break down weeping, drive home, and I would do it again the next night. Like it was really bad. But like that's show business, baby.
Yeah.
Get out there and do your job. You know, if I worked in a factory, I still got to go to work tomorrow. So like, what am I complaining about?
I guess the difference is in a factory, the busy work you might be doing is somehow different to being on stage and sharing your heart.
Yeah. It does feel extra humiliating and scary to be like emotional or going through something and then to go on stage and like fake it.
Yeah, like if you were manufacturing a tank to attack America and you saw your misses over there, that seems like it would be less difficult. Oh, man.
Yeah.
So have you thought already about putting together a sort of Christian or Catholic set?
Yeah, for sure.
There's so much content.
Yeah,
it must just be an untapped.
Yeah, there's a crazy amount of stuff I'd like to talk about. Of course, I'm working on the hour I have now, so I haven't really written a lot of new stuff, but even the hour I have now has nods to Catholicism in it. Like, I do this joke about going ghost hunting with my mom. That's what my new special's mostly going to be about. This big long story about going ghost hunting with my mother, where she like challenges me to go ghost hunting and we have like a paranormal experience and like ghosts are real. And if ghosts are real, what does that mean for spirituality and religion and all this other stuff? And I make jokes about Catholicism in there and reference it. And I think it's just funny how that like very naturally took place, you know? Yeah. And so it's been good. I do want to do like I feel like you want jokes.
I feel like you want to make fun of your beloved Catholic faith in the way you would make love of a dearly cherished friend. You know, because there are people who rib you, but they rib you too much, or they're too disrespectful as they make fun of you. You know, okay, you don't love me, actually. Now you're just being mean.
Exactly.
And you could see that line there. It's like you want to kind of make fun of some of the absurdities of the way Catholics act and interact and do things.
Exactly.
But you don't ever want to mock the beauty of the faith.
True. The Bible's also an untapped. I feel like I would... for a show, what would be so fun would be to go through the Bible and talk about your favorite stories and sort of...
and in so doing, teach them like the 6 covenants.
You know how the Ricky Gervais, famous atheist comedian, he went through a bunch of the Bible and made fun of it. How ridiculous and stupid is this and stuff. I would almost love to go through starting at Genesis and like sort of be like, make fun of people who make fun of it. You know, but also talk about how silly it is. You know, when people are like, you know, they take it so literally and to like make jokes about how God made light and time at different points. So obviously it's like poetic and you're like, how silly could you be? I don't know. And there's so many funny Bible stories. Like I can't remember his name, but he gets made fun of by a group of teenagers and then a bear attacks them. I remember someone reference that to me. They're like, how can you be Christian? What about this Bible verse? And they showed me the Bible verse. I went and looked it up, and these kids make fun of this guy, and then bears attack the kids. And I'm like, you're just making me more Christian. I don't know what you're talking. That's awesome. What are you talking about? I wish bears would attack groups of children who demean me. What do you like? That's great. It's so funny.
I forget where it is in scripture. Maybe it's in not that one, but in Proverbs, maybe it talks about like you may not put a stumbling block in front of a blind man.
Yeah.
And you're like, who did that? Someone must have done that. Who thought that was funny? They made fun of Alicia for being circumcised.
Oh, dude. See, that's so funny. That's so funny to be making fun of some guy for being circumcised. I'm like, oh no, a bear. It's just like, it's so funny to me. It's that guy, someone referenced that trying to like hurt my faith. And I was like, you're just making me happier. I don't know what to tell you.
Check this out. Leviticus 19:14. You must not curse the deaf. Who would would do that? He can't even hear you. Leave him. Or place a stumbling block before the blind. Who is doing that? And is he doing it,
funny.
turning around to high-five his friend who's like, no, I'm not high-fiving that. That was really low, dude.
They're table-topping blind guys or whatever.
Someone had to do that for God to be like, please don't.
What are you doing? Oh, it's so funny. It's also clearly like a verse about how you shouldn't demean the disabled.
Yeah, that's not a good
in
idea.
general.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
I love Ricky Gervais's line about they say you shouldn't punch down. Well, if it's a midget, I have to punch down, or else the little bastard's going to get me, isn't he? What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, I love that. So I would like to do more Catholic content, more like content that just has to do with faith and is fun in a way that I think maybe other people haven't been doing. I would love to like take absurdist storytelling and apply it to like the Bible and faith for sure. How interesting would it be to like write comedy about the true presence in the Eucharist?
You'd have to show me what that looks like.
I know, that's the thing. It's like, I don't know what that looks like, but just to think about like doing jokes that talk about that is so interesting to me. Like how would one even do that? Because it can be done. And it could be like evangelical in a way where you're evangelizing, but also in a way that's just funny and thoughtful, you know? Because I do that with other stuff. And I've seen other comics do that. Like Mike Birbiglia does that quite a bit in his comedy, where it's like he talks about something like, you know, cheating on his girlfriend and how like immoral and wrong that was. But in talking about that lesson, he's very funny the whole way through. He has one of my favorite lines in all of comedy where he's talking about being at this comedy club and the waitress tries to sleep with him and he's in a committed relationship and he sleeps with her, and then the whole audience isn't expecting him to have said that, and they gasp and they go, oh, and he goes, yeah, I know, I was there. And like, it's just like where he's admitting like, this was a horrible thing. And I know, you know about it I was there.
I agree with you.
I was so bad. And it's like, that's a very difficult thing to do, but like very possible.
Well, I love how you say, I think getting my face tattooed was a bad idea as well, just so we're on the same page. That's such a great line.
Yeah. I always like to do that where I'm like, we are understanding. I'm not understanding.
Man, have you checked out Exodus 90 lately? If you've heard of Exodus 90 before, you're probably thinking of cold showers and Lent. But the Exodus 90 app offers so much more. It's a daily companion to help you grow closer to God and to become the man you want to be. This summer, I'm following along with the app's daily scriptures, reflections, and prayers. It's awesome. On the app, you can join the Enthronement to the Sacred Heart, the Exodus 90 Summer Book Club, and St. Michael's Lent, which starts August 15th and leads up to the Feast of St. Michael the Archangel on September 29th. St. Michael's Lent is an ancient tradition of prayer and fasting popularized by St. Francis in the Middle Ages that's been lost in our time. Let's bring it back. Join the men of Exodus 90 and Father Carlos Martins, Catholic priest, exorcist, and host of the Exorcist Files, who will serve as our spiritual guide for St. Michael's Lent this year on the Exodus 90 app. We will awaken to invisible realities and enter into the spiritual battle that rages around us all the time. Go to exodus90.com/Matt for a 14-day free trial to the Exodus 90 app and to learn more about St. Michael's Lent. That's exodus90.com/Matt to join us for St. Michael's Lent starting August 15.
I have something to tell you about.
All right.
Me and Thursday came up with a plan.
Okay,
we did a thing.
I'm nervous.
Where...
Am I in the right spot?
What about me? All right. Go. So me and Thursday did a thing, right?
Okay.
Mother Natalia. Do you know her?
Yeah.
Okay. So she's this Byzantine nun. I don't have to tell you all about it. Christ the Bridegroom convent. And so we for Valentine's Day bought all of the nuns there a dozen roses.
So nice.
And so we were like, oh, this is lovely. And then a bunch of them were like, I've never received roses before, and it was really sweet. And then I was kind of like, I wrote Mother Natalia like a letter, and it was all very lovely, and like it was, you know, it was obviously very platonic, but it's a romantic gesture. It's Valentine's Day. They're these beautiful women, and they deserve to be loved, and all this stuff. And then both of us were like, what if we tried to get every nun in the world a dozen roses for Valentine's Day?
All right.
Every Valentine's Day. And so then we were like, well, we have to enact some sort of plan in order to get people to be buying these nuns roses.
Yeah.
And so we need to, basically that's where we're at.
Okay. That's what we got so far.
That's what we got so far is that every nun in the world needs to get a dozen roses next Valentine's Day. And so we need to start some sort of organization or plan where all of us have to be responsible for a nun, okay?
I like it.
Yeah. And we need to get them all a dozen roses for Valentine's Day.
I love this. I think it could work if we had some sort of sophisticated website that showed different convents and how many sisters were in each convent. But you wouldn't want to give away their identity or even necessarily...
No. We just need to know the number of sisters.
Yeah.
And then we just need a checklist like, I got them the roses so that we know.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, just think about it. If you're watching this and you're like, oh, you could do that. You can just send nuns flowers.
Yeah.
And it does make them very happy.
Although I wonder if it might lose its personal touch if it was just remote through a website and you found out there was a convent here and you signed up for one sister.
True.
And
So that's why we need people to take personal responsibility in order to achieve this.
Yeah.
Write them a letter, a personal note or whatever, Do you know how like kids send letters to soldiers? And they're like, good luck fighting the bad guys. And they draw a crayon drawing of a guy and he's firing at an Iraqi tank. Do you remember that?
No, but
I was in the military. I remember. They did that to real thing. Like elementary school kids would write you letters and they'd literally be like, good luck in the war. And you're like, thanks, Kyle. This will be like this, but good. You know what it'll be like this, but correct. So... yeah, that's our plan.
I love that idea. I feel like if we could institute this, maybe just at least for the listeners of this podcast, maybe we could come on in January and come up with a plan.
That's what
list out different convents
and people kind of take responsibility. And so we're like, okay, this is that. But I would like people to like truly give someone like a Valentine's Day experience, write them, and obviously this is not like romantic in like the sense that you're trying to. Don't be weird. But you can send someone a love letter without being weird.
Yeah,
you can send a platonic love letter.
Your enemies are my enemies. I will kill whoever slanders you.
Exactly. That's what I write Mother Natalia weekly. I go, you tell me anyone who makes you feel uncomfortable.
Hurt. Please tell me somebody offended you so I can hurt them.
Find them. Yeah. And so I just think it's really beautiful to do something like that for them.
I love it.
I've finished my conversion and now I'm a Catholic and stuff, I feel a deep, weird appreciation for nuns where I'm like, they're the most important piece of the puzzle. They're the most underrated. Yeah, truly, like what they do is so important to me. Every time I see a nun at the airport, I'm like, what can I buy you? Do you need a drink? What do you need? And then we IP track all mean comments on the channel directed at Mother Natalia. We are hunting you currently, actively.
On Minecraft.
So I don't know. I just think it's great. So there's something about nuns very specifically. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah.
Prayer is so important. They're doing something so special that I'm like, let's like show them the love. I feel that way about priests too, but I'm definitely with clergy. I'm more like trying to, as man to man, sort of be like, hey, thank you. Like, I have like personal friends who are priests.
Here's how I think it starts. Here's how we get this going, I think. All right. So next Valentine's Day comes. Maybe we try to find 20 somewhat popular convents in the United States.
Yes.
And then we come on here and we invite someone to take charge of that particular convent and to find their own team of people.
Yes.
Right? And then we have them email us and explain to us how it went or something like that. You got to start small.
That's every night in the world would be
great. But if we could start with just 10 or 20 convents next, Valentine's Day.
Operation.
I intentionally and have always intentionally never wished my wife a happy Valentine's Day.
What?
Yeah. I refuse to. In fact, if I can leave her on Valentine's Day, I will do that.
That's
Yeah, let me explain why. I don't like secular culture telling me to do something nice for my wife.
Oh, okay.
So I'll intentionally do that thing a week before or a week after. I try to do it all the time. I like her. She's awesome. We go on dates every week. But I do not like
That's
secular
so funny.
culture telling me to have a romantic night with my wife. That can go to hell.
I used to do the opposite, where it would be Valentine's Day, and I'd be like, "You want to celebrate some religious holiday? I don't need religion to tell me to love you," and like kind of like shirk it off and be like, "Here's a flower. You know you don't care about. I love you year round."
Yeah. No, that would be wrong. I get that. So long as you're actually putting in the effort, but just not when the secular
Two
culture
guys
tells you.
doing the same thing for different reasons. Now I love Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
I think especially after living in New York, there was like, for all the negative things I could say about New York, Christmas and Valentine's, it's like you can feel the city doing those holidays. Like on Valentine's Day in the city, you can feel people being in love. It's almost hard to explain.
That's nice.
It's really beautiful. And so
You could do so much with. Sorry, my ADD brain just jumped to a different topic. You could do so much about saint stories, like in your comedy act.
100%.
Oh my gosh.
For my podcast, I want to just go over and like do overviews of saints and make it silly and just talk about their histories and how cool, and so many saints are so heavy metal.
There was a fella called Saint Vitalis of Gaza who would, as a monk, hire himself out as a day laborer,
Yeah.
and then each night hire a prostitute so she wouldn't have to sleep with anyone that
Yeah,
night.
yeah.
And would just read the office, pray the Psalms.
You talk to her.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that guy rocks. And then there's also like the heavy metal, like Saint Longinus or whatever, who's like, he's the Roman soldier that put Christ out of his misery.
Okay.
He stabs Christ with the spear of destiny. And then he's like blind.
Wait, is it called the Spear of Destiny?
Yeah.
That'd be a great metal band name.
Yeah, it would be.
Keep going.
I've been told it's the Spear of Destiny. I don't know
it
if
is
it's
now.
actually
We're
called.
going with
Yeah.
it.
So he stabs him with a spear. His lungs were filling with liquid because he was being crucified. The liquid and blood splashes onto his face. He had bad vision. His vision is cured instantly. This Roman soldier immediately comes to the realization that he's killed God, and becomes Christian on the spot. And then he goes to preach up north somewhere in like Turkey, modern Turkey, and he's preaching to these pagans, and they don't like it, so they beat him, hold him down, and cut his tongue out. And then he resists them, overcomes them, goes into their temple with a hammer. He could have ran away and tried to survive. He could have run away to try and preach another day or do any number of things. With his tongue cut out of his mouth, he went into their temple with a hammer and started smashing their idols. And he said, "Now we'll find out whose God is real." I can't remember the exact quote, but it's so heavy metal and so sick. Like, it's so tough to be like, "Oh, you cut my tongue out. I refuse to escape. Now I'm in your church smashing your idols, saying we'll find out whose God is real."
I mean, you know this already, but you could do an entire half hour or an hour just doing saints in chronological order.
100%.
So you pitch it like you're teaching them a lesson in hagiography.
Yeah.
But so you begin with the bear story, and you just people would be fascinated because they want to know about saints, and yet you're being hilarious at the same time.
That is a really good idea. I would love to do that. So that was my idea when I bombed on Valentine's Day, talking about Saint Valentine.
Yeah.
You know, because the whole thing where he sort of like has this, I can't remember the story exactly, but he gets put in jail and they're going to execute him. And then he heals the jailer's daughter and starts a friendship with her, and he's trying to get her to convert. And they write like love letters to each other, but like he's chased and he's in prison. So like, it's just like basically him healing her and their like sort of friendship and how it develops. And then she calls him my Valentine, which is where we get that from.
Okay.
But then he's martyred. But like the whole story is really interesting. But that kind of stuff is like, there's
that
so many
content
saints.
exists, but people not even Catholics know about these stories.
Yeah.
So to bring that to light in an educational way, I always feel like I have an easier job than you, because I get up to preach, right, or proclaim the gospel or teach something. So people are there just to be taught.
Yeah.
They don't expect to be laughing. So if I can make them laugh, it's all the better.
Yeah.
But for you, they expect you to make them laugh. That's going to be a lot more difficult. But if you could pitch this as an educational thing, dude, it would be the best.
Kind of a one-man show almost, less of a thing. I would like to do that. That's kind of the idea for my podcast, for sure, is to just approach these topics kind of freeform and make them silly.
You could come up with like a handful of prayer cards for each of them and give them away at each of these talks or something.
Oh, that would be fun. Yeah, I definitely need to work on something like that. It would be cool to do.
Do you hate when people
like
try to give you material? I'm sorry. That
No.
that.
Well, firstly, you're not technically giving me material as much as we're. It is funny that
trying to come up with a structure of a cool.
People are watching us do like what creatives do to like the beginning of whatever ideas they have. Like we're just sitting here pitching ideas to each other.
It's the end of the podcast. We've given up. This is the point.
Hey, if you've made it to the end, welcome to the creative process, y'all. It will be funny because I truly feel like I'm going to do something like that. It's such a good idea. So anyone watching this like 8 months from now is going to be like, whoa, there's the show thing they were talking about.
Yeah, wouldn't that be amazing? Like 25 saints you've never heard about or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. Just anything. It could be great. I'm really excited for it. I'm definitely going to do something like that. But
that was my sister just writing to me. My sister is, since this is the end of the podcast, my sister is, by end, I mean the part where we've given up. My sister, and by that I mean, my sister is moving here, just moved here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, her husband's American, and they've already bought a house in Steubenville. And
that's a family tradition to marry an American, huh?
And to move to Steubenville.
Steubenville.
Yeah, so super pumped to have her in town.
Well, I must be a member of your family because I plan on marrying an American as well.
And moving to Steubenville?
No, I don't know about moving to Steubenville.
Dude,
but
someone was, I'm just going to say it, someone was stabbed outside of my house last night.
Steubenville.
I don't mean to joke about it. It's okay. Terrible. But I woke up at 12:30. This rarely happens. I nearly said never.
Rarely happens. People are hardly ever stabbed outside my apartment.
Never. I woke up. It was 12:30 at night, and there was about 10 police officers walking around the street with flashlights. I'm like, what's going on? So I went down. What's that? They said, they caught the fella, and they were looking for his knife.
That's crazy.
And I thought to myself, you know, he could just use another knife, right? Like, and this is a joke. This is why I'm not a comedian.
I was like thinking
we need to find the knife so he doesn't kill anybody again. He has another knife. I'm like, shit, Lieutenant. He could use another knife. Damn it!
We have a double knife situation.
But yeah, that's how I woke up at 12:30 in the morning. Wild.
Interesting.
This stuff.
I love that you call it 12:30 in the morning.
Oh, yeah?
Because for me, it's 12:30 at night. I go to bed at 2 a.m. every day.
Do you really? Yeah, we talked about this. Do you still deal with insomnia?
A little bit, yeah. Not as bad as it was, but still pretty bad.
What do you do to offset that or to make it less bad?
So I used to try all sorts of things, but nothing has worked. So instead of trying to medicate it, I've given up and I've just tried to live with it in such a way that where if you just accept it, then it's just easier. Yeah, it's not as frustrating. Whereas like before, if I was laying down and so I have a lot of people are like, I have insomnia. And what they mean to say is like, they're just not sleeping or they're staying up doing other things. I have insomnia for real, which means I am exhausted. I want to sleep. I am tired. I literally can't focus. I'm miserable. And I close my eyes to rest and no sleep comes. Yeah. Like I'm trapped in my body. And so I used to just rage against that. I would just lay down and hope I would go to sleep over time. Now, if I feel like that, I just simply am up. I just get up and I start doing things. And I find that will help me sleep better. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I sleep every other day. So just is what it is.
Yeah.
So, but I've gotten a lot better. I also think that having like people around a lot. I live with a lot of people right now, and I also spend my time with a lot of people. So like that has helped me where I'm not alone as much. And so when everyone else is on a schedule, I'm sort of on their schedule a little bit. Like everyone's like, oh, I'm going to bed. And it like helps me wind down. Whereas before I was just kind of like left to my own devices in my room by myself, just like with my 3 monitors and my record player going. Yeah. And I've got a book laid open while I'm playing a video game, like, and listening to a YouTube video. Probably not great.
Yeah.
So
no, I mean, I just got back from Austria, so I'm dealing with jet lag, and when I wake up like at 3 a.m. and I wake up hard. It's not like, oh, I'm waking up. It's like, bing, time to do things. And you must feel like that. That's
all the
probably
time.
what it feels like. But
yeah,
but I've learned like, okay, don't open the laptop, don't check your phone, even to listen to peaceful music. Don't do any of that. Just lay there. Well, this works for me, not for somebody with insomnia. I just gotta lay there and pray and hope that I fall back to sleep. But it's hard to be satisfied with exhaustion. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's tough.
Have you tried drugs or? I don't mean legal drugs. Have you tried heroin?
have you ever? What's the deal with PCP? Do you know? I hear good things. No, I did a little bit, and they like didn't work, or they would work for like a week and then they would stop working. And I'm like, I refuse to take Ambien or anything like that. I'm just so uninterested in that. Yeah. So I have taken some stuff that has like helped, but like it's so in there.
Are you tired of people giving you suggestions on what could help?
No, what I'm tired of is people being like, well, if you stopped looking at your screen, you drink a lot of caffeine. It's like, well, I've stopped drinking caffeine for months, multiple times in my life. It does not, I know my body, it's not working. So I don't like when people condescend to me about it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, especially when they're like, your caffeine intake. And I'm like, I gave up. Like, I didn't drink soda for Lent, which is crazy because I drink like 2 12-packs of soda a day.
It's impressive that you're not fat.
Well, it's diet.
It's impressive you have teeth.
The sugar rots your teeth, not the carbonation.
Yeah, but I mean, the stuff that's in that, surely that's rotting your teeth.
I don't think it is.
No?
No. Though my teeth do fall out sometimes, so that's not great.
Oh.
But I also
aspartame, that's not good.
I'm doing a lot of boxing and teeth specific activities. I'm gonna ride a bull this summer. I'm sure that'll be great for my teeth.
Are you prepared? How does one prepare to ride a bull?
There's some training you can do, and obviously you got to work out a lot, limber up. But there's a lot of like specific training, and then you ride like a smaller, like less angry bull who's not like bred
with 2 broken legs.
Yeah, that's not bred to kill you like the other bulls are. But yeah, I've when I was young I rodeoed, and as an adult I would like to get in there and do some rodeoing. So I'm gonna see how it goes.
I've started saunaing and cold plunging, which I get is the new thing, but I don't care. I love it so much.
It speaks for things are popular because they work.
Exactly, or they're good. Yeah. So we've been doing it in Austria, my wife and I, every a couple of times a week. And what I didn't realize is that the cold plunge is so necessary. Now I see the sauna without the cold plunge is like having a cigar without a lighter. Why would you bother? Just you need both. So me and John Henry did this last night, 15 minutes cold plunge sit, 15 minutes cold plunge sit, and it really just relaxes me.
Yeah, it's
totally
so
gets me ready for bed, which is so weird. They would jump in freezing cold water.
Yeah, I have the opposite. At my house, I have an inflatable hot tub that we built a shed around.
Okay.
And then we put some lights in there.
That's nice.
And so it's very redneck. And then we have a horse trough.
That's what I have for my cold plunge.
Nice.
Just so we're clear.
Yeah.
I buy like 5 20-pound bags of ice right before, and I throw it in with frozen.
And you have like one of those like metal tin horse troughs. Yeah, that's what I have too. It's great.
From Rural King.
Yeah. And then in Utah, it's like winter 6 months out of the year. So most of the time it's cold. But yeah, it works out. It's great.
I would never have thought I would have liked it. It just sounded awful. And I got a friend here, Rob Pretzel, who I love, amazing guy. He was always inviting me to cold plunge. I'm like, no, please stop talking to me. That's about that. That sounds awful.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it's really good for you. Like the inflammation it takes away is like wild.
Really?
Yeah. I think it's just so good. I have like problems with my back sometimes, and cold plunging is like the cure. So also stretching, just be limber, everybody, especially if you're over 30. Got to start stretching if you're over 30.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I think it was a Babylon Bee article that said scientists show that after 30, it's just back pain and dieting until death or something.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I was doing back pain and dieting in my 20s. My back has hurt since I can remember.
Yeah.
Do you have back stuff?
I find that I have to, I do this a lot more than I used to,
Yeah, that's the funny thing where you're always like, I make noises that I make dad noises. Like when I get up, I'm like, ugh. and I find myself involuntarily doing it, and it makes me self-conscious.
I have this really weird way of like stretching my lower back. It's going to sound so bizarre and slightly sexual as I explain it, but I'll put my butt up against a flat wall, and then I'll spread my legs out on that wall, and I'll just spread them as far as I can, and then I'll lift my back up, and it all pops, and it stretches out your
I'm gonna need you to show this to me after, because this sounds
maybe
great.
We'll take a photo, post it to Instagram, and not explain what we're doing. And once this goes live, they'll still not understand why I would ever do a thing like that.
Both of us against walls, just trying to. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna show you. It's really good because that does help with my lower back. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that we're like, as men complaining about our lower backs, and women are like giving birth to multiple children. Their hips are dislocating. Their lower backs can't be great. And we're like, I make noises when I get up. It's pretty hard. Meanwhile, women are like going through the worst things imaginable. And we're like, yeah, my back's tight sometimes.
I went on a 5K run the other day, a 5K, whatever race.
Yeah.
And I did well. I think I beat who I wanted to beat. Let's just put it that
let's
way.
go, baby.
I just beat the people I wanted to beat.
I love it.
But my knees felt like basketballs for the rest of the day. They were just I don't think they looked swollen, but they felt so swollen.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm old.
Yeah, you gotta.
So I did the cold plunge that day. And I think
you just gotta limber up, and I think a lot of it's consistency too. I feel less old the harder I work, which is funny. I'll be so sore, and I'll be like, I feel like crap, and then I work out, and I'm like, well, yeah, I feel better. It's like
interesting?
So stupid that it actually works, But then you're like, well, I gotta do it, because the more you work out, the better you feel, despite feeling bad.
Do you stretch it? Like when you say you stretch, do you have a routine that you go through every morning?
Because my lower back is weird because my hamstrings are super tight. I've always had like a really strong squat. Okay. Like when I was at my strongest, I was like clean and jerking 315 or something, which is like a pretty decent amount of weight. For people who don't know about kilos, that's like what, 140 something? I don't know. It doesn't matter. I can't do the math, but it's a decent amount of weight for sure. Like it's a strong guy amount of weight, but like I would then be able to bench like less than 225, which is so funny. Like now I've reversed that and I've gotten better at bench, but so anyway, my legs have always been so tight that it messes up my lower back. And so I do all these stretches specifically for my lower back every day. I should stretch my arms and upper body more, but I'm just so focused on my lower back all the time, which I'm sure so many men and women watching this are like, me as well. Like all of us have hurt lower backs from sitting in chairs doing this.
Right.
Or just like, I love to sit crisscross applesauce. I'm doing it now. I got to stop.
I got one leg up.
Yeah, I do. I'm always trying to like, I'm the guy who like, if everyone's sitting, I'll get up on top of the table and sit crisscross applesauce. Like that's how I like to sit. And so that can't be good for my back. I know it's not.
When I started, I don't do CrossFit anymore, but when I did it 4 or 5 years ago, when I started, I couldn't squat even without weight. And I didn't realize that was weird. I couldn't just squat and sit with my knees up. You know what I'm saying?
That's wild.
Like I couldn't get below the knees or not much below the knees. And it was because my back was so tight.
That's crazy.
Now I can definitely do it, but it was weird thinking I was somewhat in shape, and I guess I'll start this thing and realizing, wow.
Like you literally fundamentally can't move.
Yeah. Here, let me show you what I mean. It won't be on camera, so it'll be very boring. But
I'll describe it.
I'd get down to here.
He's down.
If I started doing this like this, I would fall over.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Literally unable to squat.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're working on it now.
Well, what do people need to know?
People need to know that I'm on tour. ShayneSmithComedy.com.
Excellent.
I have shows. I don't know when this comes out.
Whenever you need it to come out, we will make it happen.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I don't need it to come out. Listen, I have shows next week in Texas. If you're hearing this in the future, I'm sure Texas was great. In Dallas, Fort Worth area. And I've got like Tulsa and California and a bunch of other shows set up.
They can find all of that on your website.
They can find all that on my website. And then also, if you're Catholic, I have a couple shows currently scheduled for June 4th. Let's go. And then, so I have a bunch of shows. Let's see. Oh, and if you're Catholic, I am doing a few shows for certain dioceses that have like asked me to do events. So who knows? I may just show up to where you're at.
I want to see what your website looks like.
It's probably not great.
ShayneSmith.com?
ShayneSmithComedy.com. ShayneSmith.com is taken
I hate
by
that guy.
Yeah, that billionaire. Ooh. So, I need to get a new website guy, actually.
Oh my gosh. This is really cool.
Yeah, it's not too bad. My old guy did a great job. It's a shame he wants to do other stuff. Yeah.
This is you? That doesn't really look like you.
Yeah, that's me wearing a coif, a chainmail coif. Is that how we pronounce that? With a sword and some Warhammer miniatures. Really just letting people know what I'm all about. But yeah. So go check out my website. Come see me live. Hopefully I'm performing at a seminar or some kind of thing near you. I just, yeah, so that's kind of what's going on with me. And then what else? I'm going to start a podcast called Backyard Rodeo. I'm releasing some clothes soon in conjunction with Ritual Print Co., which is owned and operated by the guy from Sleeping Giant and Holy Name, Tommy Green, which is two bands that were really important in my conversion and are still important to me today. Tommy is Orthodox, so he's one of our Eastern brothers and sisters. Him and his wife are great, but they own this print shop and they're very Christ forward in everything they do. And I asked to collaborate with them, and they're like, "Of course." And so I'm going to be putting out merch that is cool enough that anyone would wear it, but is cool, is also Catholic. Does that make sense?
I love it.
And so, like, our first shirt is going to be a very like a nod to a hardcore trope. It's going to be like a guy wearing a ski mask with an AK-47, a very gnarly looking dude wearing, I used the rosary you gave me with the Byzantine cross on it as the reference. So he's wearing a rosary and it says "Pray for those who persecute you" on it. So that'll be very cool. So it'll basically be like heavy metal or cool looking merch that's Catholic forward. But if you weren't Catholic, you'd be like, "This is a tough shirt." Like, I gotta, so I'm working on that. That's what I'm working on.
You have one fella doing the design? Or?
Yeah. So we're doing the design at Ritual Print Co.
Okay.
Like, so those guys are helping me with the designs because I am not an artist.
And this is the Orthodox and his wife.
Yeah. So this is a bunch of Orthodox people who run this place. Ritual Print Company. Yeah.
Print Company.
So I'm like, okay, look that up and let's see if it's right. But yeah, they're on Instagram and stuff. Oh yeah, there they are. So they're great.
Oh my goodness.
And they have a shirt right now
that is awesome.
Is supporting their charity Run Against Traffic. They do a charity that helps people who are victims of human trafficking. Wow. And not in the like obscure internet way where they're like, donate money, we help. Like, Tommy himself has housed victims of human trafficking. Whoa. He is on the ground doing work. So like all Christians who do charity, he's like hands-on making people's material circumstances better, as opposed to like most charities, which are like
raising awareness
or like support our cause, donate money. And then it's like, but how? What
are you doing with it?
Yeah. Again, one of the main things in my conversion was seeing Catholic charities and being like, you are the only people on the ground making people's material conditions better. You are meeting people literally where they are physically and being like, here is a sandwich. Are you sad? I will help you. I will listen to you and treat you with dignity. Like,
I love it.
That's so much more important than being like, donate to homelessness. Like, what am I helping? Make people more homeless? It doesn't sound right. Like, what do you? This is nothing.
Growing homelessness.
Yeah. Whereas the church is like, we're giving out sandwiches. Help us give out sandwiches. You're like, yes, absolutely. We're doing something real and tangible.
Yeah.
Awesome. So,
well, brother, thank you so much for your time coming on the show. And
of course, thank you for talking to me for a long time about who knows. I cried much less this time. I'm proud of myself.
That was good.
I mean, the amount of people who are like sending me screenshots of me crying to be rude, but also people being sweet too. So I'm like, but neither of you should send me this.
You can't tell whether I'm supposed to be like defensive or grateful. Like, what the hell do you mean? Oh, you're being kind. You're one of the kind ones.
Lots of women being like, I thought it was really brave of you to bare your soul. I'm like, I'm not going to marry you. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. All All right. Well, thanks so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Good to be here. Let's get our backs popped.
Yeah, I'll show you.
All right.